years go back into time.
Previously on the Rich Eisen Show.
Sean Payton here on the Rich Eisen Show.
I had a chance to listen to his interview, and yeah, I guarantee you many feel that that's the case. And then shortly thereafter, it was announced that, hey, the league is going to have this draft at the end of the month. I think the bigger scope of things was just relative to everything that's going on outside of us. This is going to be a tough month here for New Orleans, particularly Louisiana.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now.
Y'all ready for this?
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
The NFL is being bashed today for being tone deaf.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
I think it's just a little tone deaf to come out and say we're going to start the season on time with full stadiums.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
Look, we know this fall it's in doubt. So everybody's looking at the NFL to tell them something that we kind of already know.
Today's guests from NFL Films, Greg Cosell, New York Times NBA columnist Marc Stein, Alabama offensive lineman Jedrick Wills, plus executive producer of Netflix's Brews Brothers, Jeff Schaffer. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
All right, everybody, welcome this edition of Rich Eisen Show action right here from Los Angeles, California. We're sitting here at our posts and hope that wherever you are happy and healthy in this crazy-ass world of ours that we are trying to survive, literally, figuratively. Hope that you can enjoy the next 3 hours with us. That's why we're here. We're feeling hearty, healthy, and well once again. Good to see you guys over there. Del
Hey,
Tufo,
what's happening, brother?
Chris Brockman. Are you wearing like a layered sort of effect over there? You got a T-shirt. You got the whole.
Yeah, I just got a shirt on over the T-shirt. I didn't want to go T-shirt. Look, I got body shamed yesterday, and so and I'm not going to lie,
Body
that really
shamed.
affected me the whole day. I did a 30-minute online boxing class.
Did you
Only
really?
made it through 22 minutes. I am dying today.
Did you?
And so I had to cover things up to just,
Very good.
a little insecure today.
Okay, well, no, look, actually, I wasn't body shaming you yesterday.
No, I know. But someone on the wormhole body shamed
I
me.
don't
and
know.
You know what?
Just
Go run another 40 in your suit.
Thank you. Ever since we started going, YouTube off of our audience TV show, you've been lining the drops. I'm pleased that the
paying
drops are
attention
back.
more. I got more work
Very
to do.
good. You got okay. Very good.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to this show. If you're listening to it somewhere, if you're watching us, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Go on in our chat room, have some fun. Try not to body shame Brockman. He's very sensitive. We love conversing with you. Okay. Look, you don't know what to expect anymore. The sports world in particular, right? So,
No idea.
okay. So, here's the deal. Didn't think one of the headlines of the day would be Derek Jeter being Tom Brady's landlord. Didn't see that one coming.
How about that house?
Yeah, I look, we're
Oh, my gosh.
30,000 square feet. I guess two accesses to the bay. Everybody's showing it off. Jeter's 30. Pardon me. I shortchanged it. 875 square feet.
Yeah.
30,875 square foot spot. Beautiful.
On the water, but a pool right in front next to the water.
Not a lot. Is that the backyard? Is that the front yard? The front yard, I think, has got some space. Backyard is right up against the water.
Right on the coast.
Well, anyway,
there.
so Tom's in Tampa. Tom's in Tampa.
So it's really happening? It's actually real? It's
Dude, you guys
still
got
real?
a house. I mean, hey, look, we've been following the real estate since the very beginning, have we not? The guy put his house up for sale, and
we were all like,
that's
it's
it.
It's
And then you're hearing that's nothing.
There's nothing.
That led to one of our favorite fantasy football names of the year, which was Zillow of Smoke. Searching for the Zillow of Smoke. So he's in Tampa, ready to go, and moving in. And I guess he'll be throwing with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans soon enough. 12, 13, and 14 will be doing, I guess, what the Lamar Jackson, Antonio Brown, Hollywood Brown, Jerry Jeudy set did yesterday.
Man, everybody picked up on that.
Now, first up on our show is Greg Cosell, my NFL media group compadre. He's been with NFL Films for quite some time. Greg Cosell, I don't know if Greg's been on this show before, has he?
The old show, the old podcast days, but I don't think this version.
The old podcast days. Yeah. So Greg Cosell is one of the top evaluators in the game. The guy sees so much film, and he knows pretty much every kid that's coming out of college to go into the draft. The draft, as we all know, is going to happen. I mean, April 23rd, 24th, 25th. I'll be very honest with you. I always shoot you straight here on this show. We're still waiting to see how that's going to be broadcast on NFL Network. I do believe there's going to be a camera in my office.
You have home cam?
Rich cam, home cam.
I love it.
Again, I might have to hang a sign out in front of on my office door at home, my small home office. Basically, kids, keep it down. Daddy's hosting a draft behind these doors. And so that's why I want to have Greg on. Pretty much every single moment of the day that we spend on the air here, in my mind, is going to be starting to get geared towards the NFL draft coming up later this month. And as soon as I know how it's going to be broadcast on NFL Network, as soon as the people at NFL Network will find that out, I'll pass it along to you. But the question is, how's it going to go? You're seeing all these mock drafts right now. I think you could take any mock draft that does not have a trade in the top 5 and just ball it up and throw it out the window.
Yeah,
That's the problem with these mock drafts is they can't account for trades.
Well, you don't know what teams are going to do. You don't know what they're going to offer. Like, nobody saw that Falcons-Browns trade to get Julio Jones, happening.
And if I'm the Lions right now, okay, if I'm the Lions front office and coaching staff right now, if I'm Patricia and Quinn and those guys, I am sitting down and I'm figuring out how do I get 2 trades out of the top 5? Can I possibly get Miami swap spots with me at 5 and then say, who wants Justin Herbert? Who wants Tua? We all know who does. Then who wants Herbert? And then they move from 3 down to 6, and they get a whole bunch of stuff and still get Jeff Okudah sitting there at 6, who everybody thinks they should snag at 3, the corner. And that's why I guess you're seeing reports, or at least one out of South Florida from Armando Salguero, hearing that the Dolphins are thinking about trading up to 1. Now, I don't believe that's because they love Joe Burrow more than Tua. I think that's just, again, a way for them to shoot a shot across the bow at the Detroit Lions saying you're asking for too much. So we'll just make a better deal for us. We'll just go up to 1 and get the guy that we want. I would imagine that would cost more money, cost more draft choices to go from 5 to 3 than 3 to 1, unless the Lions are asking right now the same cost as it would take to go from 5 to 1, because they know how much they want number 3. They're considering, with Burrow sharpied into Cincinnati and Chase Young sharpied into D.C., they're considering themselves the de facto number 1 overall pick. If I was valuing my pick for the Lions, I would say the same thing to the Dolphins. We're kind of like the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
So we're valuing number 3 overall as number 1 overall, so we're asking for all of your draft capital that we know that you know because you're tanking your head off until Fitzmagic strolled along. Right? Wouldn't you do that if you're the Lions? Of course you do that.
Absolutely.
So the Dolphins are maybe sitting there saying, and again, this is all conjecture because, again, it's April 2nd. The draft is April 23rd. We're all convening here to go down some sort of sports diversion anyway. So you're sitting there, the Dolphins thinking, all right, you know what? The Lions are asking for exactly how much we'd have to get for number 1 overall. Let's go to the Bengals and give it to them. Right?
Yep. No doubt.
I think that's entirely possible that that's what's playing out right now. When you see that report coming out of South Florida that the Dolphins might be going up to number 1 overall. And again, we'll ask Greg what he thinks and how he evaluates these quarterbacks. Tua coming out yesterday saying he's ready to play right now. I told you this stuff was going to happen, didn't I?
Yeah, the quote is, I feel 100% if there was a game today, I'd be able to go out and perform the same way I was able to perform in previous years.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Right. And so everybody should go, again, on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, and hit that subscribe button. We always appreciate you doing that. But the reason why I'm sending you there is not only to watch us live, But also, we had last week when we were all off OFF on personal time off, and we decided, let's use our PTO to have some fun in our respective homes, and we zoomed in. Had no idea that people could just zoom in on your zooming. I had no idea. Thank goodness nobody else did.
Didn't even know the same.
Didn't know. So at any rate, I zoomed a conversation with Trent Dilfer, who is essentially the Tua guru, running him through drills and getting his, as he said, lower part of his body, his base, in a much better position to avoid the injuries that he suffered on occasion in Alabama. And at any rate, saying that he thinks he's better than before. And I proffer to say more and more videos are going to come out on Tua's Twitter handle between now and April 23rd to show all these folks he's fine. And I'm sure all the folks in draft war rooms, if they are fortunate to be in their facilities to still do that, or if they're in their local breweries, as Sean Payton revealed yesterday when he called into the show saying it was the first day of work at the Saints' new makeshift draft room, which was set up in Dixie Brewery in New Orleans East, owned by the team. One of the many things that he dropped. I'd love to get him back on the phone today to talk a little bit about a report about the competition committee and what they're talking about over this weekend to fix the pass interference issue and pass interference being reviewable issue. We'll hit that later on in the show. Apparently, Del Tufo's favorite aspect of the AAF is being seriously considered for the NFL.
Sky Judge.
We'll talk about that later. But just go and listen to what Trent's got to say and what Tua's got to say. And the question is, would the Bengals twitch in that direction? If not, what does that mean? And again, the Chargers, I think, are sitting there at 6, having the plan, let it all come to me.
Take who's left.
If I'm Tom Telesco and I've got something in my top right drawer that moves up to 5, moves up in the top 5, I'd have to seriously consider that right now. I'd have to seriously consider that right now. And we'll discuss all of it with Greg Cosell coming up first. Marc Stein will join us from the New York Times. Our friend Chris Mannix at Sports Illustrated wrote an interesting piece backing up, putting more meat on the bones of what Mark Cuban mentioned to ESPN, which is creating a bubble city. You hear about this?
I did hear a little bit about this.
Creating a bubble city, and the bubble city in question might be Sin City, where all 30 association teams, or at least those that might be on the periphery, on the outside looking in, including, or maybe all 30 teams go and create your own sort of NBA village, where we're assuming everybody who's allowed in the bubble is tested for the virus.
Right.
And they're allowed in, and hope that it's a cleansed bubble and nobody catches it or gets it. And the idea would be to also have, one would think, a host of people who would help put this event on. And the event would be similar to what Brian Windhorst posited when he came on this show, the ESPN NBA Insider, a tournament that would determine who from currently in the standings chart on the outside looking in would get that 8th and final playoff spot, including, I guess, in the Western Conference would be Memphis. And then 1 through 7 would be the current standings in the NBA playoff order in both conferences. And then you have anything from a best of 3 out of 5 in the first round to single elimination contests in the next 2 rounds, and then an NBA Finals, all condensed in a huge, one would think, 3-week, 4-week event for all of us to chew on sometime in the summer. Who knows if that's pie in the sky? Who knows about anything? But all options apparently are on the table. And Marc Stein, I would love to know, pick his brain, what he's hearing about in the NBA. And then in hour number 3, we're going to have a little bit of fun. As always, we could all use a laugh. For those on our YouTube feed, we showed Larry David's PSA to stay at home that the state of California put out. I wonder if our friend Jeff Schaffer had anything to do with that at all.
Good question.
Jeff Schaffer, one of the funniest guys I've ever met, the executive producer, director, writer, brought you so many great Seinfeld episodes back in the day as a writer. And he is the executive producer, writer, and director occasionally of Curb Your Enthusiasm. His latest project is breaking all sorts of streaming records right now. Dave on FXX, Lil Dicky. And he's coming on to talk about his new show that he created with his brother, Greg, who serves as a showrunner and writer on, that's going to start streaming next Friday on Netflix, called Brews Brothers. But I have some information that I'm going to hopefully pry out of Jeff.
Oh, about?
Season 11 of Curb.
Oh, okay.
So we all know season 10 of Curb just concluded.
And it was a monster.
Season 11 of Curb. I think it's going to happen, baby. Again, that's another thing we talked about with Jeff Garland when I Zoomed with him in last Friday's show. Check out all our Zoom shows. They were a lot of fun. They're about an hour long.
They were fun.
And Jeff zoomed in from his backyard. Where, by the way, he was with his dog, who is the dog from the Goldbergs. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah. No, I watched the interview and found out that was the case.
Yeah.
He said he was thinking about getting a dog, and they just said, take
the
this
dog.
one.
Really?
Yeah, just take the dog.
Yeah, bring the dog to work when it's time to work.
Yeah,
but, now we're on hiatus.
bring
Just
it
take the
home.
dog home. All right, 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Greg Cosell will join us. Do you have a poll question over there, Christopher?
I have two options.
All right, we'll hit
if
on
you're
that.
Interested.
We'll hit on that in a second. But for the moment, I want to get to Greg Cosell. Who does he think should be number one overall? How good is Chase Young? Is he really the real deal that we're all assuming to just sharpie him in for Ron Rivera, number 2 overall in Washington, D.C.? The intrigue at the top of the draft, the top wide receiver. We had Jerry Jeudy on yesterday. The top lineman, the top everything that could be on your mind for an NFL draft that is going to happen coming up on April 23rd. Greg Cosell, one of the top evaluators in all the land, and also the nephew of one of the reasons why I do this for a living. Yep, Uncle Howard's nephew, Greg, will be joining us next live here on the Rich Eisen Show. I want to talk to you about our friends at Sleep Number, which is the sleep and wellness partner of the NFL. I've been talking about Sleep Number for quite some time, and look, we all know that in these challenging times, the most important thing to do is to maintain our health and be able to give us our best possible base from which to stay healthy. Nothing is more important, clearly, than getting a great night's sleep. It really is. And so Sleep Number wants me to give you what they believe are some of the best sleep tips that are out there. Okay, so a pre-time bed routine is going to tell your body time to unwind. You can read a book, stretch, do some sort of meditation. Probably put your phone down would probably be a good idea for at least 15, 30 minutes, certainly since you're seeing all the headlines on your social media feeds. Avoid food before going to bed. The body at least needs an hour to recover from exercise and meals. A screen-free bedroom, again, so important. And then minimize lights. Dim the lights 1 hour prior to bedtime. Draw blinds or try room darkening shades. These are just all some ideas from our friends at Sleep Number that want you to take their online quiz and discover smarter sleep right now to find your ideal mattress. So visit sleepnumber.com/bedquiz to help find a mattress that fits your needs. Again, sleepnumber.com/bedquiz. 844-204-RICH, number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, welcome back here on our show.
What's happening?
I don't know, bro. Greg Cosell's on the phone line already. I love when people are on time. We're late.
He's early.
We're late. Is he early? Well, that's right. Well, he's on half Coughlin time. 2 minutes before.
Derrick Henry signed his tender, Rich.
He did.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, $10.2 million.
That's a smart move.
Yeah, I think so.
Sign your tender.
And then, they'll work out a long-term deal.
See if you can do that.
Yeah.
I like it. And plus, get paid.
Yes.
Get paid.
He has until July 15th to work out a long-term deal.
So I want to talk about this later on in the radio show. But you remember when Gronk flew back from the Super Bowl with me? Remember that? We were on the same flight?
Yes.
Where we left the Super Bowl together at halftime, unbeknownst to each other. We wound up being on the same flight so we could get home in time for Monday.
Right.
I think we found out what he was flying home for.
Yes, we did. I think we all kind of knew that, though, right?
We knew it. I was sensing it, but it's a spoiler alert, kind of, ish. I think it's out there.
It's out there. I mean, if you follow him on any social media, it's out there.
Did he put it on his social media feeds and all that stuff?
Yeah.
He's coming back.
His girlfriend did, for sure.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Flying back for the Masked Singer.
Yeah. He was the White Tiger, right?
Dude, it was so him. It was obvious.
Like the
it
whole
was
time.
him.
Because the guy was
The entire time it
6'6",
was
White
him.
Tiger.
It was so obvious it was him. His body movements were him. The things he was saying was him. It was just so him from the very, very, very start. Here, Don, I'm going to take a screen grab of something, too, for you to be sent later on. Wow.
Yeah, he tweeted out, "It was me behind the White Tiger. What was it like performing as the White Tiger? Absolutely too sexy."
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
God bless him. How about that dude photobombing us in the back? Can I get that guy out of there? What can I do?
They have stuff for that.
He's just asking for a vodka soda, huh? It was, by the way, 10:30 at night.
Who was that? Was he?
Oh, no.
Definitely looked like Jim Tomsula or something.
Oh man. Okay. How's our chat room doing today?
Everyone's into it. They're
Bot
excited.
free.
Bot free.
Like it?
They'll probably show up now that I said that.
Okay. Very good. People like the big word alert. You know, my mom
Big word
was
alert's really
watching
funny.
yesterday. Hi, Mom. If you're out there again, she had a whole last night when I spoke to her, a whole I guess tablet. What would you say? A white, the paper.
Yep.
Whatever the hell.
My
Legal
God.
pad. Thank you.
you.
My
A notebook.
God.
Yeah.
Make a video.
Of notes from our show.
Your mom?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
She was writing them down. No, just the
Good
stuff that she
man.
liked.
I thought she was critiquing.
Oh,
Don't
no,
pick on
no,
Del
no.
Tufo. He's a nice
Well,
guy.
she knows that.
I know. I love your
Well,
mother.
yeah.
For sure. And she did
does.
love big word alerts.
Big
So,
word
Mom,
alerts.
we're going to show another one later on today.
I like the sports judge. Those are funny to me.
The
big
sports
word
judge
alert.
was great.
And the crew. Those are good.
Yeah, and I spoke to Ken Tulo, who produced so many of those last night, too. He sends his best. We send our best back to you, Ken. All right, we'll take a break, and we'll come right back. Greg Cosell of NFL Films to break down this upcoming draft that's coming up. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. On the show, we'll get to your poll questions, but I want to turn right now to a friend of mine. It's been a long time since I've spoken to him, however, and I'm pleased to have here on this show one of the top evaluators of football talent that's anywhere to be found. The analyst from NFL Matchup, executive producer as well from NFL Films, Greg Cosell. How are you, Greg?
Rich, great to be with you. Thanks.
Great to have you on this show, sir. Is Joe Burrow number one overall a no-brainer in your mind? Because we're hearing that maybe the Dolphins are considering trading up to number one overall, and we know how infatuated they've been with Tua for a couple of years. How do you assess that very important question, Greg?
Well, I see Joe Burrow as clearly the number one quarterback prospect. So to me, he's number one. I think he's a better prospect than Tua.
Why?
I think Burrow has better traits overall than Tua. I think that when you look at Burrow, the only thing you would say with Burrow, you could say the same thing about Tua, but I think the only negative, and reasonable people will disagree about this, is that he doesn't have higher level arm strength. But I think every other quarterback trait that you're looking for, Burrow possesses. And he's terrific with his understanding of pocket movement, both inside the pocket, outside the pocket. He's very poised. He's very calm. I think he has high-level traits other than the arm strength. And I think different people will see that differently, but the NFL passing game has changed.
Where do you stand on the subject of Burrow, Greg, that his sample size is smaller? It was just this past year in which he exploded, and you'd like to see that happen in the NFL, not just in the year right before it. What are your thoughts on that subject?
Well, I'd answer it this way, Rich. I think that almost every quarterback is a system quarterback. There are very, very few exceptions to that. Maybe a Patrick Mahomes with his incredibly high-level talent, but every quarterback is a system quarterback, and it depends then on the system you're placed in and what you're asked to do. You could argue Drew Brees is a system quarterback. So I think that, to me, that's not necessarily a valid point to make about a quarterback because there's very, very few guys who are so special that they transcend and can play in any given system.
So where do you put Tua on the pecking order of the quarterback list then? Is he two?
I think Tua is very much system-based. I think he's a timing rhythm player. I think he needs to be in an offense where the ball comes out quick, where he hits his back foot and he moves and the ball comes out. I don't think he's a great athlete. I think that for Tua to be a great player in this league, stylistically, he would have to play like a Drew Brees. He's not Russell Wilson. He's not that athletic. I think his movement ability is fine, but it's not high level. So I think he needs to be with a team that understands what he is and what he isn't. But if you put him in that situation where RPOs are a big factor, where it's a rhythm passing game, he can be an effective player.
And are you aboard the Burrow as Brady comp? Are you aboard that train, Greg?
I think his poise and composure and calmness reminded me of Brady. Can he beat Tom Brady? Boy, I tend to talk stylistically with this kind of stuff because I'm always leery of comparing players to guys who are, Hall of Famers like Tom Brady or Drew Brees, so I always use the word stylistically. He moves better than Tom Brady. Brady was a great mover within the pocket. Burrow can move far better outside the pocket.
Greg Cosell here on the Rich Eisen Show. So it sounds like you're not very high on Tua, Greg. I guess, but only in comparison to Burrow, or where does he fall, I guess, in the whole pecking order with Herbert and Love and the rest of the group that we're going to see?
I would say he's a good prospect. I don't think he's a great prospect. I don't think there's anything about Tua's game when you watch him that you say, wow. I happen to be a Jordan Love fan. I like Jordan Love's game. I like his overall talent level. I like the fact that he's a ball distributor, that he's also a rhythm player, and he's 6'4", over 220 pounds. Tua has one issue, Rich, that to me needs to be cleaned up and can be cleaned up. He has a tendency, and maybe because he knows he doesn't have a big arm, he has a tendency to do what we call climb the pocket, step up into the pocket when he doesn't need to. And at 6 feet, that needs to be cleaned up because he will create his own pressure in the NFL if he does that.
So do you take Herbert over Tua?
I would potentially take Love over Tua, and I would take Love over Herbert.
Huh. You're that high on Love. So are you aboard the Love as Patrick Mahomes train?
No. I understand that comparison. Mahomes is a really special talent.
Right.
Love is talented, and is he the kind of quarterback that theoretically has similar abilities? Yes, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is really a special talent. Not many people throw the ball like Patrick Mahomes.
So based on what you're saying, Greg Cosell, Washington definitely takes Chase Young at 2 after Burrow goes 1 to Cincy.
You would think. Well, let me ask you a question. This is a question I've been debating in my brain, which, I've had a lot of time to get into my brain these last 2 weeks.
Right.
What's more important in the NFL these days, an edge pass rusher or a big-time corner? I know there have been studies done, and a lot of people debate that because the nature of NFL passing games has changed, Rich, to where it's much more quick game.
Right.
3-step drops, 5-step drops, the ball comes out. Now, obviously, when it's 3rd and 9, it's different. But Jeffrey Okudah, to me, and again, I'm going to throw a name out, and people are going to go, oh, my God, you're saying this is the way he is. But he kind of reminded me stylistically of Champ Bailey. I really like Jeffrey Okudah's tape.
Well, I would take Chase Young in a heartbeat, I guess, to answer your question, Greg.
And that's okay. You're not wrong.
No, and I understand that, having that corner because of how much quicker the quick game appears to be getting in the NFL on the offensive side of the ball. Just being a Big Ten guy, and I saw Okudah, but seeing Young, man, I mean, I saw how Penn State tried to handle him, and whether it was chipping him or then not, just letting him loose, and then using that potentially to try and open up a screen or a quick game. That didn't work. I mean, Michigan changed their entire offensive game plan for him to try and erase him, and he was, if you will, removed in terms of the stat sheet, but the fact is that they changed their plan for him. That's the type of guy I would take.
No, and I have no problem with that. I mean, he's got high-level traits, size, length, high-level athleticism. I got to see him in person at the Maxwell Club dinner in Atlantic City, and he looks the part. So, no, I have no problem with that. He has high-level traits.
Greg Cosell, NFL Films and NFL matchup analyst here on the Rich Eisen Show. Here's the question that we were asking at the Combine. What is Isaiah Simmons? And by that I mean the position. You draft him and play him as what in the NFL?
I feel like I should answer that with a line from the movie Airplane.
Yes.
What is, you remember that, of course. Yeah. Isaiah Simmons, to me, and I'm in the minority, even though he's almost 6'4" and 238 pounds, I think he ultimately plays like a safety. So in a base defense, I almost see him as a big safety. I know many see him as a linebacker, but I think he's the kind of player that you want to get away from the bodies, not align him where the bodies are. Where I think his value is tremendous in the NFL is in sub-defenses, nickel or dime defenses, because that's where you can line him up at multiple positions. And I think in many ways he's a much, much bigger Tyrann Mathieu in the way he'll be deployed. I think the Derwin James comp is reasonably valid. But Simmons is a great athlete. I don't know if you remember the interception he made against Ohio State. I guess it was in the national semifinal game. He was retreating as a deep safety and then showed tremendous range to pick off Justin Fields. His game is more like a safety, even though his size says linebacker.
Greg, after that play, I received separate texts from 2 New York Giants fans saying take him 4th overall. That's what I got.
So you remember the play well, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, from two different friends of mine who are Giants fans saying I want him. But don't you think that when the Giants are on the clock, Gettleman goes a protector for Daniel Jones? And if he does, who does he take?
I think that's one of the most intriguing spots in this draft because Simmons is a special athlete.
Right.
There's not many Isaiah Simmons. If he was just, let's say, a good player, I think Gettleman in a heartbeat would take an O-lineman. But I think they'll have a lot of they're having them now as we speak. There'll be a lot of discussion about Isaiah Simmons at 4 because guys like that don't come along very often at all.
So then who's the best pass protector in the draft, in your estimation?
I love Jedrick Wills from Alabama. Jedrick Wills. I think he's really, really a high-level tackle. He played right tackle at Alabama. He certainly has the ability to play left tackle, although I think the delineation between the tackle positions is no longer meaningful in the NFL. A lot of people still speak as if it is. I don't see that, but I think Jedrick Wills, to me, is the number 1 tackle. But there's 4 tackles who could easily go in the first round or in the top 15, and I think they're all worthy of being in that discussion.
Greg Cosell here on the Rich Eisen Show. I was talking about it with Daniel Jeremiah live at the Combine, just watching all of these guys work out. And, we say it every year, they're bigger, stronger, faster every year. This year in particular, you can get a top 10 player, one would think, in the bottom part of the first round this year. Don't you think, Greg? Just the way that we're talking about needs being filled at quarterback spots and needs being filled at you mentioned how special Okudah is, how special Simmons is, and how it all works out that you could wind up with a top 10 player, maybe a 20 this year.
Well, what's going to be interesting in this draft to me is the wide receivers. There's a lot of good ones.
Right.
And I think one of the big storylines in this draft is how the league views big wide receivers. There is a ton of big wide receivers coming out this year, and I'm sure you remember that from the combine. There's a lot of big guys, and they ran pretty well. I mean, you look at Michael Pittman at 6'4", 223. He ran about a 4.5 40. Again, not that the 40-yard dash is the see-all and end-all, but it just gives you a sense of movement and athleticism. And there's a lot of big wide receivers, and I'm very curious to see how the league views these players.
Well, I mean, the phrase that we were using, again, during our combine coverage on NFL Network was finding Debo, that it was Debo Samuel was the guy that everybody wants to get this year because of how sizable he is, but also how versatile. You could put him in different formations everywhere, and you don't know where he's coming from. I mean, Shanahan just used him brilliantly this year. Who do you think that Debo is in the draft?
Well, I think there's a number of guys who can fill that role, and it's funny because when I take my notes on receivers, I make it a point to talk about jet sweeps and orbit reverses, and I think there's a lot of receivers who theoretically fit that. I mean, Henry Ruggs, who's not as big.
Right.
Henry Ruggs comes to mind. I mean, he's incredibly explosive. We knew that before he ran a 4.28. I think Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State is a fascinating guy in terms of the Debo Samuel mold. He's about 205 pounds. His wingspan was ridiculous. He's not a completely polished receiver because he's only played the position for a few years, but you want to get that guy the ball in space on the move. Players like that. I'm bad at picking where guys get drafted. I'm not a good mock draft guy, Rich, but these guys fascinate me.
Greg Cosell here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you think Belichick's going to do at his quarterback position? What do you think his plan is right now, Greg?
Boy, you're asking me to get into the head of Bill Belichick?
Yes, I am. I mean, just
wow.
or at least, or just to again, because the evaluation involves Jarrett Stidham. The evaluation involves maybe somebody in this draft, Jalen Hurts, somebody that might be available rounds 2, 3, 4, that Belichick thinks I can grab this guy with Hoyer and Stidham and create myself a quarterback room that I can still win this division with this year and beyond.
Well, I think if you look at Belichick, I think for him, and these are cliched terms, but they're true. I think Belichick really loves decision-making and ball placement. Those are two of the traits I think that would be near the top of his list. Don't forget, at his core, he's a defensive coach. He does not want the ball turned over. And the NFL game for a quarterback now with so much quick game is about ball placement because it's ball placement that creates run after catch for receivers more than the receiver himself. So if you look in later rounds, that's where it's hard to know. I mean, that's where talking to players comes into play. I mean, there's a quarterback from FIU. I don't know if he likes him at all, but James Morgan is a very interesting later round prospect. The wild card here is we don't know what he thinks of Stidham, just like we had no idea what he thought of Brady back 20 years ago.
No doubt.
He may really like Jarrett Stidham and feel like, you know what, I can line up with this guy and he's going to be a good player.
Well, where was he last year in your evaluation and where you think that he might be a second-year guy? Because, again, we only have that one moment against the Jets where he threw a pick six, got benched, Cody Kessler gets signed, but he did just get released yesterday. I am wondering where you think Stidham could actually reside as a second-year quarterback.
Yeah, I think Stidham was a guy whose tape was very erratic coming out of Auburn, and a lot of people did not love their offense. The offense he was asked to run, but that's all we could watch. Talented arm. So I think ultimately you look at a player that has talent, and the issues can be worked on and cleaned up, and he threw the ball well and looked good in training camp last year and in preseason, whatever that means. I made the point in my notes that he could develop into a quality starter, but there are many variables for him to reach that point. Now, he's obviously with a great coach and a great program. So I think within the context of what they want the quarterback to do, and you can't just say, well, they had Tom Brady. They have a certain sense of what they want their quarterback to do. I think that Stidham could fill that role.
Before I let you go, Greg, I love talking about your uncle, right? Correct?
What's that?
I love talking about your uncle.
No, you can talk about that all you want.
Okay, your Uncle Howard, Greg Cosell here on the Rich Eisen Show. I do this job because of basically two guys, or I wanted to do it because of two guys, Marv Albert and Howard Cosell. When did you realize your uncle was who he was? Do you remember that?
Wow, you know what? Because we didn't grow up close to one another, our families.
Okay.
So I didn't see him very often at all when I was young.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a hard question to answer. I kind of knew that. Let's see, I was born in 56.
Okay.
and obviously Howard became big in the 60s. He really hit the big time nationally with Muhammad Ali. So I got a sense of that probably when I was 10, 11 or so.
Right.
And I remember being at camp. I went to Kutcher Sports Academy when I was, I think, 13, 14, around that age.
The old Catskills.
And I remember people starting to talk about it. And that's when I think I really took note that, hey, my uncle was an important guy.
Yeah. Again, I don't know how close you were, and I just love, obviously, though, talking about him. That said, what do you think he would think about these days with all of these shows, with everybody offering an opinion, where it's all about opinions and split screens, and this person has that opinion and that person has that opinion. Somebody has a column somewhere and has an opinion, and it's all opinion based. And he was one of the first opinionated people to actually call games and offer opinions as a one would think a character trait. What do you think he would think about that, Greg?
Again, I think he'd probably have mixed feelings about it, because the one thing about my uncle, as you know, is he was a lawyer. He was number one. He was the editor of the Law Review at law school, so he was an incredibly smart, well-read guy. So I think for the people that really work hard at it, and we all know who works hard in the business and who doesn't, I think for those people he'd have great respect, and for the others who just throw out opinions, I don't think he'd have much time for. Is that a good answer, Rich?
That's a great way to put it. Maybe a lot more diplomatic than your uncle would have put it. How about that?
Well, I was trying to be diplomatic, I mean, I'd like to still have a job after we get off the phone.
No. Hey, look, I remember reading his books talking about the jockocracy. He did not think that players should come off the field and be opinionated and have a microphone in front of them just because they played.
I remember being in his first book, because I went to Amherst College, where obviously they don't give athletic scholarships, and played sports there.
Right.
And I remember he used me as an example of what ultimately college sports should be about. Boy, that was a long time ago. Think about that.
I mean, I'll never forget. I met him once because, he was tight with Steinbrenner, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I met him once in the press box at Yankee Stadium, and, I went up to him and I just said hello to him and what he, meant to me, and he was nice. And then at one point he looked at my press credential and he goes, "What erstwhile publication do you work for?" And then he goes, "The Staten Island Advance." Come on, like that. And it was just one of my, I didn't know how to take it or not. He just, "What erstwhile publication do you work for?" is what he said. I'll never forget it to this day.
Well, you should speak to Howard Katz. He has a great story as well about the first time he met my uncle when he was starting out in the business.
Well, I mean, he goes way back to the Roone Arledge ABC Sports days, now the president of NFL Films, where you obviously know what it's all about. Greg, I appreciate the call. Truly do. If you don't mind, I'm going to keep calling you before the draft. I really enjoy the chats. It's been way too long. I greatly appreciate the time.
Oh, Rich, anytime. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Look for my call. It'll be happening again. That's Greg Cosell, at Greg Cosell on Twitter. I follow him. You should as well. What erstwhile publication do you work for? Uncle Howard also might have had a couple in him.
Your experience was a little better than mine, Rich.
You met him too?
Oh, God. All right, let's take a break. Let's take a break.
Wow.
And then the phone calls and poll questions and more. That's next on The Rich Eisen Show. Also, we might as well just go down this wormhole as well. One of my favorite television shows of all time.
Yeah.
Monday Night Football?
Oh. No. Well, I mean, I guess that is considered a television show, right? And it did turn football into a show. There's no question about that. I'm talking about scripted television. How about that?
Okay.
I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going with Howard Cosell, The Odd Couple. You didn't think I was going there, did you?
Okay. Yeah, because you
The Odd
posted
Couple.
it.
Okay, Channel 11 in New York City, WPIX television had the Yankees, and also had the back-to-back Odd Couple and the Honeymooners.
Yep.
Went back-to-back. I think from 10 to 11 or from 11 to midnight.
Right after the news.
Right after the news,
yes.
right? And Felix and Oscar. And it's the Neil Simon play made into a television show with Tony Randall and Jack Klugman playing Felix and Oscar. And one of the greatest cameos ever, I think he was in like 2 or 3 episodes, was Howard Cosell. Because Oscar wrote a column about the mouth that roared and just totally took down Howard Cosell, who would show up in their apartment, just as friends of Oscar, and they would duel back and forth verbally. And then he invited Oscar to come into the Monday Night Football booth to see how you do it. And Oscar froze.
He couldn't.
Froze. As soon as the microphone put in front of him, he froze, didn't say a word. And then Cosell, never forget it, the line was, "Do not adjust your sets, ladies and gentlemen. That noise you hear, or that sound you hear, is only Oscar Madison telling you everything he knows about professional football."
I remember that.
At which point then, Oscar's buddy Felix jumps in, grabs the microphone, and fills the void with his play-by-play to try and save his friend.
Okay. And it didn't
And
go
he
well?
talks about Roger Staubach takes the snap. He fades back elegantly. He's scrambling with the dexterity of a lizard. And it just, oh, my God. But and no gain on the play. No gain on the play. But a lesson for us all. And he starts going into a soliloquy about life.
Oh,
sounds great.
No gain on the
it was
play,
funny.
but a lesson for us all. And he just takes the microphone wire. He starts exploring the booth.
He's just walking around. That's right.
Oh, my God. One of the funniest episodes ever. And I was so excited to see Howard Cosell on that show.
That was like for us. I mean,
never forget it.
That's funny. Is that on YouTube?
Oh, dude,
somewhere?
there's a scene.
yeah, it's on.
Look
he posted
at
it.
it.
He posted.
I posted.
stills of it
No.
recently.
I follow. I think it's called Super 70s Sports. It could be occasionally profane, but it's very funny.
Yeah.
Very, very funny Twitter handle. I can't recommend it enough. And they had a photograph of
there we
Howard
go.
Cosell.
I got it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everybody, I know exactly where that screen
right.
grab was
You knew
from.
it was
from
right.
The Odd Couple.
And I knew it
because he
from
was in there.
seeing
He was
that.
there in his ABC Wide World of Sports yellow blazer. Blazer.
I mean, that was.
Don't
a show.
adjust your sets, ladies and gentlemen. That's Oscar Madison telling you everything he knows about professional football.
You heard the three notes. Dun, dun, dun. You were in. As a
What, for
kid.
The Odd Couple or
No,
for
Monday Night
Night
Football?
Football?
As a kid, that was like.
Dude,
The Odd Couple too.
it's a great. It lasts. Some of the episodes don't last, but some of the Odd Couple episodes are
amazing.
brilliant.
Their cameo
Brilliant.
stars that were on that were amazing.
How much time do we have left till we're back here?
About 1:40.
Okay.
He's wearing like a captain's hat in this episode.
Years ago, I had
you go.
last one for you. Last one for you here. Years ago, when I was working at ESPN, I had a spot on the Upper West Side, a small little apartment for me to go down to and just hang out on the Upper West Side of Manhattan on my days off to get out of Connecticut and go and have a social life. I go running in Central Park. I come running back, and there I am sweating like crazy. Who's strolling down the street with his two new babies, even though he's a 70-year-old man? Tony Randall. It was a red-hot summer day, and he was wearing a crisp button-down shirt and a blue double-breasted blazer, literally straight out of the Felix Unger collection.
Wow.
And I stopped him, and I'm like, "Mr. Randall, I know I'm really wet, sweaty or whatever, but I'm such a big fan of yours, and I just want to say thank you for all the laughs that you give me, because that's the time I run into anybody who I'm a big fan of. I'll do that. Mattingly, all of that stuff. I don't care if I'm embarrassing myself.
Right. You don't.
He doesn't break stride. And totally like Felix Unger, he goes, "Why, thank you." And then he keeps strolling by. And then as he's strolling, pushing the stroller, leans over his shoulder. He goes, "But I would think you should congratulate me on my children." And kept walking. And I thought to myself, that's the best answer I could have gotten. What an exchange. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Just great chat with Greg Cosell. Not a big Tua fan. Out of all the evaluators that we've had on,
he's the first one
to be not sold. Forget it. Like
good, not
great.
Good, not great. Didn't call him athletic, which
said he's not as athletic as Russell. Not a Tua fan at all.
Steps up in the pocket in the NFL. That's going to create pressure.
And his answer about, would you take Herbert over Tua? He said, I would take Jordan Love over Herbert.
Over both of them.
Yeah.
Jordan Love might be a guy we see go sooner than
I'm telling you, man,
expected.
when Isaiah Simmons made that play in the national semifinal against Ohio State, 2 Giants fans saying that's my guy. 2. They got to take someone to protect Daniel Jones, though, I think.
Yes.
I think that's what they're going to do. Yes. The non-sexy pick, if you will, at 4.
It is a non-sexy pick, but it's the right pick.
Let's go to Jay in Troy, New York. What's up, Jay? You're here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Hey, how you doing, Rich? Can you hear me okay?
I can. You're on the air, sir. Thanks for calling in on this radio station or youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, however you're taking it in. Appreciate it.
I'm doing well, thank you. Strong and proud member of the 454s. Big shout out to the Wormhole.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Thanks for calling in.
Yes.
What's
Absolutely.
up?
So what I'm hearing is pundits saying, basically, lock it in. The Bengals take Burrow at number 1. I was going to lay out the case for giving up the number 1 and see what your thoughts were, basically.
Okay.
So Bengals have a lot of holes, obviously.
Yeah.
Need to revamp at linebacker. Need to revamp the secondary.
Oh, yeah.
If the Dolphins offer you all 3 of their first rounders this year.
Sold. And here's what I need to do, too. I'll just say right there. Sold. And they won't be doing this. They won't be sending all of their first-round selections. They'll hold on to one. I'd want one from next year, too, because that way when I stink on ice once again and I've got the ability to maybe, if I'm not number 1 overall, I can move up and I can get Trevor Lawrence. That might be it. But that's really, really risky, Troy. I mean, Burrow, you heard what a lot of people have said about him and his traits. And, I think he'd be a tremendous quarterback and a tremendous presence and an Ohio kid and all of that. And thank you for the call, Troy. And please call back again. And I appreciate you being out there for all those who are listening right now. He's referring to the Wormhole, which is what the people who appear in our YouTube chat page or chat room wanted it called and referred to themselves as the 454s because that's my Uber rating. Damn it. Burrow is the guy. You're first overall here. You don't want to be there again. You've got a young coach who's from the Sean McVay system, right?
Yep.
And Sean's going to join us next week, by the way.
Oh, fantastic.
And you know what? I'm just going to flat out ask him, do you think Joe Burrow would work in your offense? Not for you, but for your acolyte in Cincinnati. How do you think he'll take that one?
I think he's going to be very polite.
No. He's got his guy. His guy's there. Stop it, man. Jared Goff's his guy. Jared Goff took the damn team to the Super Bowl. Jared Goff makes throws. I don't want to hear it. Stop looking at me like that.
I haven't said a word. Just
The face, the reaction.
The face, your reaction.
The face.
I'm just saying. They paid their running back, who was the face of the franchise and an MVP candidate, and then cut him after 2 years.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. Burrow's sitting there. You can't make a play for anything else. Get him. Rip the knob off. Apparently that's special. Mike, you got a minute. How bad was Howard Cosell to you?
So we're in Yankee Stadium at a Yankee game. Actually, one of the longest Yankee games in history.
What year?
It was 70s, late 70s. They had a 17-inning game, I think. So it's probably like the 10th or definitely after the 9th. Me and my brother and my father, rest in peace, took us there. And I think we were a couple of other kids. All of a sudden, we look up, and you remember the old box?
Yeah, of course. That's where Steinbrenner was, yeah.
The end of the box, you could look up, and our seats were right below that, and that's mezzanine there. And I'm like, it's Howard Cosell.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going crazy.
Yeah, it's at the height of his fame. You're talking about late 70s.
I mean, I'm going nuts. I'm like, we got to try to find, get to him, get a ball signed. So we get a ball, come back, and we're like, if we see them move, we're going to go, because I know where that elevator was.
Right.
Boom.
So you did that?
Waited. Elevator. Howard comes. We meet. Boom. Howard, I'd love, this is so cool. Like, I'm doing what I'm doing now, where I can't talk.
Right.
Try to sign the ball. Literally turns right into the elevator. Didn't even say hello.
He didn't even say hello to you.
Like, he said hello, but it was like.
It's a little Mikey Del Tufo left standing there with a ball.
And I was very sad. Then I saw him later in the Monday Night Football booth when I actually got to go in the truck.
Did you get a football signed?
And he shook my hand.
Hey!
So the second time I saw him.
If there's a third time, you'd actually gotten something
which was
signed.
Cool. So
We teased that story.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not. I get excited when I tell
Marc
stories.
Stein's going to join us. You call in
stuff.
844-204. We got the whole second hour for your phone calls, too. Marc Stein's going to call in. Is the NBA thinking of having like their own bubble city for their own tournament to determine a championship? That's next. Can we? Hey, coordinating producer Don Bowie, what do you have lined up here? Oh, yeah, my mom, again, she loved this yesterday. The latest big word alert. Let's check it out. Big word alert. Big word alert. Antonio Brown says he's moving past it. He's in a new place, and the Raiders would love him to move on. But clearly there's some sort of animus towards a guy that does not appear to have a single reason, a bone in his body to have animus thrown in his direction. It's really something else. What are the Steelers going to do? Big word! What do we do? Quick, look it up.
Animus, a noun meaning strong dislike, hostile attitude, or an ill feeling towards someone or something.
Animus. After Michigan got their butts kicked again by Ohio State, Rich had animus for all Buckeye fans.
Nice.
Big word alert. Big word alert. So let me turn this one to you then. Who Frank Caliendo out of your oeuvre of yes?
I like to think of it as the Louvre.
The Louvre of your voices. Who would be the biggest Game of Thrones?
I don't know the word. Do you know the word? Let's go. Let's go.
Oeuvre, a noun, the works of a painter, composer, or author regarded collectively.
Oeuvre. My oeuvre as a DJ and an audio executive is unmatched.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's it for today's Big Word Alerts. You're welcome.
years go back into time.
Previously on the Rich Eisen Show.
Sean Payton here on the Rich Eisen Show.
I had a chance to listen to his interview, and yeah, I guarantee you many feel that that's the case. And then shortly thereafter, it was announced that, hey, the league is going to have this draft at the end of the month. I think the bigger scope of things was just relative to everything that's going on outside of us. This is going to be a tough month here for New Orleans, particularly Louisiana.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now.
Y'all ready for this?
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
The NFL is being bashed today for being tone deaf.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
I think it's just a little tone deaf to come out and say we're going to start the season on time with full stadiums.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
Look, we know this fall it's in doubt. So everybody's looking at the NFL to tell them something that we kind of already know.
Earlier on the show, from NFL Films, Greg Cosell. Coming up, New York Times NBA columnist Marc Stein, Alabama offensive lineman Jedrick Wills, plus executive producer of Netflix's Brews Brothers, Jeff Schaffer. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Hour number 2 of the Rich Eisen Show on the air on this loyal Rich Eisen Show radio affiliate, Sirius XM Radio, and also give us a watch, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. I'm wearing a French blue shirt with a light gray V-neck sweater.
Deep V on that kind of.
It's looking charcoal on the feed. It's looking charcoal on the feed. It's looking dark charcoal. So I know everybody again in our chat room, our YouTube chat room, likes to talk about what I wear, and I appreciate that. All I know is it's stylish, and I look damn good in it. So there's that.
A very Cosell
Rich Eisen, Rich Eisen loves Rich Eisen.
Thank you very much. Yep, appreciate it. Great chat with Greg Cosell in hour number 1, one of the top evaluators of talent. He's not a Tua fan. I mean, that was something. That was something. Drafts going down this month in the NFL. In terms of live sporting events, there is that Tiger versus Phil that may include Tom Brady and Peyton Manning event that is supposed to go off in May. And we have a couple of thoughts about that we didn't hit on yesterday. I do want to hit on that. There's also the potential for a sky judge coming to the NFL I want to hit on. But in terms of, live sporting events, there's that Tiger versus Phil that may or may not be happening. Looks like it will. And then the question is the NBA going to come back? And if they would, what Mark Cuban suggested, a bubble city setting where you create a setting where everybody comes in and is supposedly healthy and checked to be healthy, and then we hold some format of a small version of the season to figure out who 1 versus 8 is and 2 versus 7 is, and figure out what the playoffs might look like and finish this thing up July, August.
I'm into it.
Marc Stein of the New York Times is locked in on the association and has been for a very long time. Covered the NBA since 1994 and the senior NBA reporter of the New York Times back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, Rich. Do I need to report what I'm wearing? Is that part of the
Sure. What do you got, Mark? I mean, I know you're probably sheltered in place there in the city, but what do you got?
Got on a Fila tennis hoodie to pretend that I'm a pro tennis player, which I really am not. My game is nowhere near good enough to justify the hoodie, but I'm pretending.
Right.
And I got a Cal State Fullerton hat on to rep my school.
Attaboy. Very, very good. So what are you hearing about the NBA and games? And I know things certainly in the city are particularly dire, but again, we are talking sports. We're in the toy department of the sports world right now. Is it possible that the NBA could return us to that spot, do you think?
I have to say, I'm a pessimist by nature, so I've been pretty cool on it throughout. Now, in league circles, they're certainly bandying about every conceivable scenario that you could think of, and the bubble idea, that has been knocking around now for a good week or two, and they've considered the same thing in soccer abroad in England, and that I think that kind of ramped up the discussion because it emerged over the weekend that English soccer is seriously considering this, and it kind of brought more attention to the fact that people in the NBA had already been talking about it. But just as a practical matter, I mean, let's just imagine. Let's fast forward to July. Pick a date in July 15th. Even if they go to Las Vegas, as has been suggested, Las Vegas has the hotel space. Las Vegas is where the annual G League showcase is, so the league already knows what it's like to bring 30 teams together and have them all playing games on multiple courts in Las Vegas. So they've done that before. But for this to happen, players, coaches, staff from 30 teams, referees, all the operators of the broadcast who would be making these, because obviously they want to televise all this. I mean, you're still talking we're talking thousands of people still. Can you get all those people into one city, quarantine them, and ensure that they are all healthy and they all stay healthy and no one gets the virus again? It's just really hard. I am no epidemiologist, but it is really hard to imagine that coming to fruition.
So, are these just how serious are these conversations? Just to even take the figurative temperature check, to use the phrase of the day, Mark.
I mean, they're serious. They're serious in that look, and I totally understand this viewpoint. I mean, I don't know what the end. I don't know that it would benefit the league to just come out and say we're canceling the season now. I mean, why not give yourself every opportunity to play out the season if you can? There's really no upside into just canceling. So why not have constant meetings, constant discussions, and tell all 30 teams that throw out any idea you have. We'll listen. I mean, Adam Silver has made it clear that everything is on the table. He's said that, and that's his approach. But I'm just trying to be a realist, and I think if you listen to voices around the league, the people who are talking about this publicly, I think players would have a lot of safety questions. Are players going to feel safe going into an environment like that? I mean, I just think there's a healthy degree of skepticism just because the situation is so dire. I mean, it's obviously a worldwide crisis, and in terms of sports, it's the biggest crisis that global sport has ever faced. I mean, that's not overstating it. So.
Right, and in the NBA, because it is a global sport, and also with the NBA in terms of the schedule, the NBA also had a prominent player test positive for coronavirus first. The NBA also had a player test positive for the coronavirus with people in a building getting set to play a game. They were the first to shut down. I mean, they kind of, after the Ivy League, the day after, I think the Ivy League decided to cancel their entire tournament in order to determine who was going to the NCAA tournament that we all know eventually got canceled as well. The NBA was the first here, and they're kind of the first, and I know the NHL has a similar construct, but the NBA has a huger spotlight on it, to be very honest. So the question is the NBA going to be the first to cancel games as well? You even said that they're just not ready to do that yet. What's the conversation on that front, Mark?
Yeah, see, I don't know that maybe there is a ribbon and tons of praise for being the first one to come out and say we cancel. I suppose in some corners you could say that would be some sort of PR victory for them, maybe. But I mean the clear sense coming from the league, at least at this point, 3+ weeks into this, the calendar just flipped to April. They do not want to rush to cancel. They want to give this every chance. And I think the one thing you can say is there isn't a time crunch yet. The league will eventually reach a point when it says, you know what, trying to save this season is just going to mess up next season too much. But there is that faction around the league, and you mentioned Mark Cuban, and he's been very vocal about, Mark Cuban is one of those guys, and he's not alone. That he is one of the prominent people in this league who loves the idea of starting next season at Christmas and going through August and pushing free agency into September. And there is a faction of people within the NBA that would love to see a broad calendar change, which is not something that the NBA can just institute. That's something that has to be collectively bargained with the players. But because of these emergency circumstances, it could arise that the NBA has to try out that schedule and give it a test drive and see. So there are people in the league who say, playing games, we've always wondered what it would look like to have real games in July, August, and September, have the draft much later, have summer league later, start at Christmas. So I think there are some people in the league who want to try all those things, and these circumstances could force that.
Necessity being the mother of invention, in other words, on that front.
Exactly.
Marc Stein here for the New York Times on the Rich Eisen Show. But then there's the concept of canceling games because, let's get into this a little bit, even though there's a lot of legalese, and we're talking about collective bargaining agreement, the words force majeure, and putting aside money in an escrow account. If you cancel games, then perhaps there's a money-saving aspect to things, to take salaries and take them and put them in escrow. Can you describe what that's all about?
I think it's the opposite. The biggest reason to try to save the season is because this has already been a hugely expensive season for the NBA. Let's remember how it started. It started with the Daryl Morey tweet that fractured the NBA's relationship with China, and at the All-Star game, Adam Silver said that event, that controversy will cost the NBA in the hundreds of millions, somewhere he estimated somewhere above 200 million, but less than 400 million, but that's a lot of money. And then now on top of this, people fear that the losses, when you add up the regular season games lost, the money that would be owed back to the regional networks that have regular season games, the loss of television and gate revenue in the playoffs, that this is going to cross the billion threshold. So the withholding salaries, the whole concept of withholding salaries, that's all meant to try to keep next season's salary cap and the split of money between the players and owners. Those are measures all to try to keep, to not mess up next season. But this is going to be a hugely, hugely, hugely expensive season for the NBA. So that's a big motivation why, if there's a chance to play in July, August, and September, they want to do it because it's the chance to theoretically recoup some of the money they're losing right now.
And I guess the idea would be, just to game it out again from what you might have heard, that you take all 30 teams, you quarantine them where they are, right? They got to stay at home. And then you test them before, you test them throughout, you test them right after. And then you get them to Vegas, you test them before, they quarantine there maybe for another week or two. And then everybody in this community has been deemed COVID-19 free. And then you play the games. I guess that would be the way to do it, right? Is that the way you...
right now, that's what people forecast is the most realistic way that this season can be continued and not just end abruptly. Obviously, baseball dealt with this in 1994 through a labor stoppage when they didn't have a close to the season. It's never happened in the NBA, and naturally the NBA wants to avoid that. They don't want to have a season that just ends at the 65-game mark with no champion. But again, these are all, it's still just conceptual because the NBA, and smartly so, has said from the start, we can only take our cues from
the virus,
the real experts like Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, the virus. That's what Dr. Fauci says all the time, that the virus sets the timeline. Nobody sets a timeline. The virus is what's setting the timeline. And
that's true. That's it.
Right. And then, of course, there's the question, in a way, you're hearing the NFL getting a ton of blowback about saying we're going to hold a draft. I mean, just a draft, which does not require anybody to travel anywhere. It just requires people to have to reconfigure in front offices how they conduct the draft.
Well, the NFL has the great fortune of, their draft is so far removed from the
playing
regular season.
Right.
I'm sure the NBA would love to have its draft in June, but
they don't know the order. No, I know that.
It might have to be postponed if they get any hope that they can play games in July or August. you got to hold the draft.
Right. No, but the reason why I'm bringing all this up is you still have to realize also, I'm imagining what the real world is like and how it would be received to know that dozens, hundreds upon hundreds of NBA players and front office staff and would get tested in a manner that maybe, the regular populace doesn't. And they'd have to figure all that stuff out to see if it's worth playing a season amongst all of that, right, Mark? I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Speaking purely from a societal perspective,
yes.
let's hope that by July, that by the time we got to that point,
right,
that testing nationwide would not be the issue that it's been. I mean, you would like to think that that's the case, but again, that is certainly not my.
No, I know that, but again, and I'm not trying to put you in that position. Again, but the whole idea is that a lot of NBA players got tested really fast, back in a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just wondering if the NBA heard all of that and this would be factoring that into all of the equations.
I think you're right. I think there is the societal component here, and if it looks. The NBA is not going to rush back and put thousands of people into a supposedly empty gym if,
right.
society, if so many other communities are going through shutdown still and are in the position that we're in now. So they're going to follow the directives that they get from government officials. And again, I totally understand why you discuss these concepts, why you plan, the contingencies upon contingencies is kind of the phrasing people throw around.
Right.
Certainly they're going to talk about, they're going to brainstorm, but, they're waiting for direction just like everyone else.
Mark, appreciate the time. Stay healthy, stay hearty, and I'll give you a ring shortly. We'll check back in with you on all of this. Appreciate the call, Mark.
Sounds good, everybody. Be good out there.
You're right back at you. That's Marc Stein. Hey, the NFL, the baseball is going to go through the same question.
Oh, yeah.
The NFL might go through the same question. The NBA's first up.
Yep. And it's funny, on a lot of these issues, we kind of take our cues from the NBA. They have been kind of a leader throughout all of this.
When I'm telling you, we've had this conversation before. You might as well have it again here before we throw it a break and then take your calls at 844-204-RICH. When the NBA shut down, when Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID-19 before tip-off in Oklahoma City, and they canceled that game and had to cancel another game, I believe in Sacramento, right? Yeah. Because an official that had been officiating a Jazz game had already flown on a plane to Northern California. Yep. They shut that game down. And then they decided, we got to shut them all down. When the NBA decided to do that, it was a monumental moment for this country in terms of all of us as U.S. citizens realizing the seriousness of this problem and the importance of staying home if we can. That this was going to fundamentally change the way for a certain period that does appear to be the rest of this year bleeding into 2021 as we're sitting here on the second day of April, that it fundamentally will change the way that we have to look at our lives and live our lives. The NBA was the first one to really bring that into focus. Sports was so important again in leading the way in this country to change our fundamental approach. Then the NCAA tournament canceled a little bit late after a couple of tournament games tipped. Mike, you were at the soundboard for a Big East game. Which was in the middle at halftime. They're like, let's finish this up and then we're done. And it's just like, why are we even finishing it up?
Yeah, what's the point?
But and then hockey and soccer and, as we know, golf, tennis. Remember Indian Wells canceled? And everyone's just like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So even when sporting events began to cancel, the initial reaction was, what are we doing? The NBA was the first one to say, this is what we're doing. Because, again, it's still piecemeal on the government aspect of things. The governor of Georgia today, after issuing a stay-at-home order yesterday, today, on April 2nd, 2020, said the words that he didn't know that asymptomatic people could possibly be carriers of COVID-19 and others could get it from asymptomatic people. That it was unknown. Like, how is it possible? Again, sports setting the tone because some states are still going about their business because they don't see it there. It's going to be everywhere. It is everywhere. All right. The NBA is going to be the first one up to basically make a decision. Do we create a bubble city or not? And how does that work? I'll tell you what, and I want to be consistent here. If the NBA pulls it off, we're all watching.
Oh, yeah.
We're all watching, and it would be such a major diversion.
And we need
But how do you pull it off? Like, again, you'd have to quarantine everybody. All 30 teams would have to shut it down for 2 weeks, and they'd have to be tested and looked at, and then they'd have to get on a team plane, and everybody on that team plane better be clear and not pass it to each other. Then you get to a hotel in Vegas, and you have to probably quarantine there too for another 2 weeks. Wouldn't you have to just make sure?
Yep.
And then you'd have to, once everybody's clear, then you'd have to go into an arena where anybody who works in that arena would have to be doing the same thing the month before. And Mike Breen, who's at the microphone, maybe he would just call the game off of television. I called NFL Europe games off of a television screen from New Jersey.
Like the MGM Grand would be perfect.
I guess.
Grand Garden Arena, you're done. You have everything you need.
You'd have to pull that off, and not one person would have to test positive. Not a single one person.
It's
and then you could be a week into this tournament, and somebody tests positive.
And then you got to shut it all down because you got to test everybody again.
Yeah, you got to test everybody again. That's the
844-204-RICH number to dial. Your phone calls. And do you have some news items to discuss, Chris
Yeah,
Brockman?
we have some things
Okay,
to talk
very
about.
good. That'll be next right here
do
on
it.
The Rich Eisen Show. Okay. Hello, everybody. We're back here on YouTube. Yesterday we showed. Say that again. You can say something over here?
Hi, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. We've got phone calls and all that good stuff.
Wormhole got into an 80s soundtrack.
You know,
it was actually crazy.
Another
Rocky IV.
Who that fella was?
No,
that Mark?
Top Gun.
Was that Mark from Nebraska yesterday?
Oh yeah, the guy who called it with some
With the start bench cuts. Those were fun.
Yeah, those are fun.
That was.
Those
fun.
are
You
fun.
could do that for everything.
We
good.
could keep doing that. Hold just one more second, Don. So yesterday, my son, because you know it's learning remotely, you know.
Yeah,
sure.
So we're just getting started. Where his spring break is over and his school's remote learning is starting, and there's a PE part of the day.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we've kind of arranged, because he also, my oldest takes dance. And we're telling him, you know, like, showing him all these people who do this for a living or expertly. They're all ripped.
Oh,
they're all in shape.
Yep.
So his teacher's giving him all sorts of calisthenics to do.
Okay. All right. Into it? Not into it.
What do you think? He's 11.
Not into it.
Right.
Not into it.
So, and this is something you're going to have to learn, Chris. And this is free advice.
Okay.
As you know,
Should I write this down?
Susie and I, for you and Sarah, are free advice. You've got, I'm sure, that for either side of your family.
Free advice.
Free advice.
Brock, you need a separate pad for this.
Free advice. Do your best despite your varying levels of fatigue, which you're already sensing.
Very tired.
Your different levels of fatigue, your different levels of tolerance, your different levels of patience. You just got to find that reserve and make it fun. Certainly, if Cage is basically telling you, I'm not into this thing. Okay. So yesterday, to try and make it fun.
Bribery, that works, right?
I mean, Yeah, but you also can't make it about stuff like iPad, food, dessert. I mean, it can't all be screen time and food-related carrots, literal carrots on the stick, or candy carrots on the stick, okay?
Got it.
So you got to make it fun.
Make it fun.
So for the sit-ups portion yesterday,
okay,
I did play Eye of the Tiger.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Put it on my phone. How to explain to him who Rocky was.
Okay. The Cold War and all that
Survivor is
stuff,
not kind of his era of music. Like he's into like Disney radio and all that stuff.
3, so it's like Mr. T and stuff.
Like all of these songs we're watching on The Voice, he knows them all. Like my kids know a lot of these songs that they're singing on The Voice. I don't. We're old, Rich. For the plank and push-up portion, FaceTimed with Uncle Mooch.
Oh,
you should have FaceTimed to Irv.
I would have done planks. I'm not get me in there.
With all due respect to Uncle Mooch, we did try Uncle Michael first.
Okay.
I mean, I played for 3 days with Irv yelling.
I can show you on my phone
the missed call.
The attempts.
Yeah, the attempts. Yeah.
I did call Uncle Mooch, who was working out in his own little home
Mooch gym.
Mooch gym.
And he got Zan all fired up and motivated. And
did he tell me he didn't look like he's been working out?
The problem is
like
just
me.
like, we can't do that every day. Can't do it every day.
Right, can't FaceTime Mooch every day.
I mean, I'd watch a Mooch workout. I'm in.
And I'm like, Zan, you got like one of the top coaches of his time, like giving you some motivational play. I just tried my Hall of Fame friend.
Did it work? Was he into it after that?
He was. He's like, that was fun.
Okay.
So we'll try it again today.
Okay. Who's he going to ask you to FaceTime today? Daddy, go through your phone and
let's play phone roulette.
Can you FaceTime Shaq?
Yeah, exactly.
Don, maybe for our next YouTube segment, we could show the planking segment with Del Tufo.
I would plank for days with those two yelling.
That was the greatest.
That was one of the greatest moments
and
in my
favorite
life.
line
Easy.
from Mooch was when you're like, when you get up and you finally complete it, spoiler alert, and you're like, I do that in the gym all the time. And Mooch goes, can't tell.
Can't tell.
You two. You two were done.
Just slipped it right in there.
You two were done.
Can't tell.
Can't tell.
And I was like, I just went, thanks, Mooch.
I was like, Ken Phelps. Can't tell.
Can't tell. Can't tell. All right, we're back. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. We're going to have a lot of fun in hour number 3. Jeff Schaffer, the executive producer, director, writer of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and also man who's helped create, co-creator and executive producer of Dave on FXX.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for the shout-outs.
Yeah,
we were on episode 4.
Yeah, well, it's because Jeff reached out to us saying, hey, I got this idea.
What's up?
Came
out very funny.
Do you mind saying the phrase "suck me" over and over again?
Somebody.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
So of course we debased ourselves and did it.
Why not?
For comedy, we do it for comedy.
Anything for Jeff Schaffer.
By the way, one of our favorite.
They got us on the league,
dude.
Yeah.
And he and his brother have created a streaming show starting on Netflix April 10th. Called Brews Brothers, and he'll join us in hour number 3. We'll have a great time with him. Big Seahawks fan as well.
Indeed.
So he is maybe the number one Seahawks fan I know.
There are a nice few,
the 12s are
handful of 12s that we know. Ray Wilson,
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yep, Joel McHale.
Oh yeah,
is a 12.
We've had a lot of 12s on this show.
A lot of 12s
right?
Here.
A lot of 12s. Let's take some phone calls here and then get to your news. How does that sound, Christopher? You good with that? Let's go to Andrew in Wisconsin. You're here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, how you doing, Rich?
What's going on, brother?
I'm doing good. Just I appreciate you guys going on the air and stuff because it really helps me out. I mean, I've been laid off since this whole thing started. As it's one of those deals where,
I'm sorry to hear that, man, and I can only hope, Andrew, that whatever the government is passing and what the president signed, that CARES Act, hopefully that will kick into effect sooner rather than later and offer you some financial relief. In the meantime, we're here as best we can to help you pass the time, if that's helpful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's also a great time to be a Buccaneers fan. So
okay, there you go, there you go, for sure. So what do you have in mind here?
So today? I had a thought. I mean, I was listening to your segment earlier this morning, and I keep hearing Isaiah Simmons might be more of a flex where he can play more in one position. And this one thing Tampa Bay has always had an issue with since John Lynch left was a safety, a really powerful safety.
Right.
What's the thought if we somehow got Isaiah Simmons instead of an offensive tackle in the first round?
Well,
because there's the thought of getting like Josh Jones in the second round if he's still there. And obviously we need an offensive tackle, but I think that would also help Brady in the sense that he's have a really powerful backfield. And when JPP goes, he can also fill in for the linebacker position of Barrett full time.
Andrew, I totally understand that you, Chris. Where do the Bucs draft? They're 15th, 16th, 17th, something along
14th,
those lines? 14th, right? Okay. 14th. And I understand, Andrew, that in terms of your team, getting Tom Brady makes you feel like anything's possible, right? Anything is absolutely possible. Makes you feel like this is the greatest thing ever. Isaiah Simmons is not going to be around 14th overall, man. You're going to have to fire those cannons. You're going to have to find real treasure in that Buccaneer boat to get up to him. I mean, you'd have to trade up. You'd have to trade up a ton.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's probably part of what would happen if he did somehow make it happen. But I just thought, hypothetically, that'd be kind of a different thought process. Everyone thinks we're on, one of the tackles, which I'm not totally against, obviously. That'd help Tom Brady immensely.
That's it. And that's the answer. And I appreciate the call, Andrew. Keep calling back. We're here. That's it.
Yeah, one mock draft I'm seeing has him going third.
Well, here's who?
Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah. Again, he's nobody knows who he is. I mean, in terms of what type of player he is. I mean, he played linebacker at Clemson. But you heard Greg Cosell saying he could be a 6'4" safety, like Mel Blount.
Good Lord.
Okay, like somebody who's back there as a tall avatar, just coming downhill and filling a hole if necessary from the safety position.
Like Derwin James
and patrolling the secondary from 6'4". He could also rush the passer. He wanted to play offense at Clemson. Daniel Jeremiah has him 7th to the Panthers. Now, the reason why he could last that long is because the need at quarterback and the need that the Giants would take somebody to protect Daniel Jones, and the fact that you heard how Greg Cosell called Jeff Okudah, the corner from Ohio State, saying, that he reminds him of Champ Bailey.
High praise.
So just figure it out, how Simmons could go down to 7 because the quarterbacks are taken, Okudah is taken, and Chase Young is taken, and a lineman is taken. Suddenly, Simmons lasts to 7. And then another lineman gets taken. And then suddenly there's a run at receiver, okay, where there's CeeDee Lamb, there's Jerry Jeudy, and there's Ruggs. Jets and they sitting at 11, and because they had to win all those games at the end of the year last year, and the Raiders sitting there at 12. Then suddenly, if you're the Bucs, you could get. I don't think our guest tomorrow, Tristan Wirfs, is going to fall there, but is it possible that Becton falls? I think the Cardinals are going to take a lineman at 8. A top-notch defensive lineman could fall to you at 14 that you could put up there with Sue and JPP and Shaq Barrett, right? Right. And you could start building your defensive line in the same way that everybody wants to have San Francisco's,
right,
in their world. Bucs are in a good. I'm telling you, man, you can get.
Bucs are a good spot. You're going to get
top. You can get top 10 talent.
You're going to get
a
really good player at 14,
middle of the first round, if not the back end.
Really good player at 14.
And then you got the Patriots trading up for Tua, right? I mean, that'll happen, right?
Shh.
That ain't happening.
I mean, especially if Greg Cosell thinks he's good, not great.
844-204-RICH number to dial. Chris Brockman's news update. I do believe Tom Brokaw once again is answered our request. Yeah, go for it.
How about that?
And now, with a report of the day's news from the world of sports and entertainment, someone who is not a journalist or newsman by any definition of the word whatsoever, it's Chris Brockman.
Go for it, Christopher.
Hey, cool story this morning, guys. Not sure if you saw this, but the Patriots team playing, Robert Kraft.
Wait, this is awesome.
1 point, he went to China with the Patriots team plane to get 1.2 million of the N95 masks for the state of Massachusetts.
Amazing.
They weren't able to work out a deal. The governor, Charlie Baker, thought they were coming over much sooner. They ran into all kinds of issues, and Bob Kraft offered up the use of the Boeing 767 that they normally use to transport to games. Went over there, had to deal with the State Department to get the plane cleared because it was a commercial jet, and they had to get it cleared for cargo loading. Went over there for 3 hours, loaded up the plane, and came back and delivered those masks to the state of Massachusetts.
Amazing.
Really awesome.
I love it. Look at that Patriot. Look at that beautiful Patriots team plane, red, white, and blue there in China. Get those masks and bring them back to one of the greatest cities in the world for healthcare, Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, according to the Wall Street Journal, who kind of detailed this whole mission, 300,000 masks are going to the state of New York as well.
And New Jersey, I think, is going to get some also. Bless the Crafts. No one got off the plane, apparently. They just
that was part of the deal. When they landed in China, all the crew members stayed on the plane while the cargo was loaded on.
And Kraft was on it? Is that supposedly or not so?
Not sure.
Yeah, so they had to stay on the plane. Nobody could
leave the plane while they were loading the masks.
No one can hop into Russia to get Kraft's ring back?
Wow.
Yeah, just a little levity.
Pretty awesome, though. Pretty cool.
I love it. Leadership.
Yeah, Jonathan and Robert are longtime friends of the governor, and so they agreed to help
as generous.
out.
Honestly, my brother locally, my brother-in-law locally is heavily involved with the Jimmy Fund, which anybody from the New England area knows about. That remarkable institution of charity and charitable works, and the Crafts always donate tickets and parking, and for the what I do believe is a package that nets the most for the charity out there for an event that they do every year. At any rate, I'm gushing a little bit here, but I'm proud to see that.
Some actual NFL news. Tua talked to NFL Network yesterday. We heard what Greg Cosell had to say about him, but Tua says he is 100%. Feels like if there was a game today, he'd be able to go out and perform the way he's been able to perform in previous years. He feels as mobile as possible, he said. I feel 100%.
I said, what happened? Was that last November? One of my hot takes in my 4 downs was Tua will be a top 5 pick.
Top 5.
Which one, right now, if you had to choose, which one's more correct?
Your Tua pick?
I'll upgrade it. Tua top 3, Kyler Murray top 3 in MVP voting in 2020. Those were, I even just upgraded. I didn't say Tua would be top 3. I said he'd be top 5 draft choice. This was after he hurt his hip, and they said he would be okay. That he was going to have surgery and that they expected a full recovery.
Still going to be top 5.
Yes.
I kind of thought you were crazy, but now.
And then I said after the season was over, right after my 4 downs after the Super Bowl, is that Kyler Murray, who had just won Offensive Rookie of the Year at the NFL Honors.
Yep.
I give you one. You think it's most correct. Tua top 3, Kyler Murray top 3 in MVP voting now that he's got DeAndre Hopkins with him. Chris Brockman, your choice.
Tua top 3.
Oh, boy.
Not that I don't think Kyler Murray could be a top 3 MVP pick or possibly win. I think most likely.
Right.
Most likely.
Look, if I predicted it,
Tua's going
most likely they're both going to be correct. I'm just thinking, which one do you think is more likely to be correct?
I think Tua's going in the top 3.
Okay. What else do you have over there?
Top 3. As we mentioned before, Adam Schefter saying Titans running back Derrick Henry was franchise tagged. He did sign that $10.2 million franchise tender today.
Get your money, man.
They are still committed, though, the Titans and Henry, to working on a long-term extension before the July 15th deadline.
And yesterday, the Titans were the ones kind of mentioned in connection with Jadeveon Clowney. Didn't that happen yesterday?
Yeah, so I think Diana Rossini was the one that was saying Clowney's looking in the 18 to 20 million per year range. So we'll see what happens there.
But if I had told you, this is amazing, that Aldon Smith would be signed before Jadeveon Clowney.
So Aldon Smith hasn't played in 40 years. Of course, all the off-field troubles that he's gone through. Clean and sober now. Jay Glazer saying last night he's going to sign with the Dallas Cowboys on a 1-year deal.
Amazing. We should get Glazer on because Glazer is really, on top of this story, and he's been talking to Aldon Smith. And for 4 years, the guy has been dealing with addiction problems, and he's clean and sober now, according to Glaze.
Yep.
And incredible how much he's turned his life around. I'm reading off of his tweet. Field Yates of ESPN put out this list of people that are still available that have been, obviously they might cost more than 1 year, $4 million as the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, Jerry Jones is the king of offering second chances. Jadeveon Clowney, Marcus Golden, Everson Griffin, Clay Matthews, Michael Bennett, T. Sizzle, Cameron Wake, Jabal Sheard, and Vinny Curry are all free agents.
That's some good pass rushers there, man.
And so many pass rushers have gotten paid. And Aldon Smith is under contract before any of those guys. How about that?
Yeah, Trey Wingo pointed out Aldon Smith gets signed by Dallas before Dak Prescott gets a long-term extension.
What else do you have over there?
All right, last one here, kind of a pop culture thing. We saw James Bond got moved back. Top Gun Maverick, the sequel to Tom Cruise, great movie, is getting pushed back as well. Was set to release on your birthday, Rich. Now going to be released December 23rd, so a Christmas release for Top Gun Maverick.
Just all hope, man. You're excited to see that one, right?
I am very excited. Our house is very excited.
Is that right? Well, I mean, because your dog's name is Maverick.
Dog's name is Maverick. Lieutenant Pete Mitchell.
Let's knock on wood we get to see all that stuff. I know that, right?
Yeah, let's hope.
Tom Cruise reboot. What else would you want to see him rebooted?
A specific Tom Cruise movie gets rebooted?
Tom Cruise movie rebooted.
Oh, man. Put me on the spot.
Cocktail? Was he Cocktail 2?
By the way, that was the one that was in my mind the whole time. A Cocktail 2?
Yeah. Cocktail 2?
Well, as long as Elizabeth Shue is in it, then we'll be great.
The bartender.
Let me tell you, one of our favorite...
The kid takes over
the bartender.
The Color of Money, maybe?
You know what it's called? It's called The Nightcap.
You know what I watched for the first time last week when we were off?
Cocktail New.
I'd never seen Days of Thunder.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah.
I was in Daytona when they were shooting that. They shot a lot of that in Daytona.
Cool movie.
Well, I mean, Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
Days of Thunder.
The car chase in the street was nuts. Did you see I mean, that chase.
Yeah, that was insane.
Isn't that where you met Nicole Kidman?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, the
Days
doctor.
of Thunder. Down Under. Days of Thunder. There you go. Well, I mean, that's where she's from. That's what I'm saying. What's the matter with you people?
Yes.
What is the matter with you people?
That is where she's from.
Eyes wide shut.
That is where she's from.
Eyes wide shut.
That is where
Him with Kubrick. Them with Kubrick.
Yeah.
All right, let's get off the subject.
All right. I register.
844-204-RICH, your phone calls and so much more. Sky Judge, we didn't even hit that. We'll hit on that. That's still to come here on the Rich Eisen Show. Jeff Schaffer, we're going to have some fun in hour number 3. Talking Curb, Dave, a.k.a. Little Dicky, and his new show, Brews Brothers. That's coming up. Do we have Del Tufo planking? Not yet? Okay, we're going to get that. In the meantime, here's the crew. Here's the latest episode of the crew here on the Rich Eisen Show.
So the other day, Roger Goodell called in, you know, the MLS commissioner, and I hung up on him.
Look, you can't just hang up on Roger Goodell. He's the commissioner of the National Football League. He's important. So I had to demote him. But in order to keep himself busy around here, I gave him a few tasks. Little to your left. Got it. Perfect.
I said something! How's Rich handled this? Well, Rich holds me to a higher standard than everybody on the show, so I hope I didn't let him down.
Disappointed? How could I be disappointed by somebody I don't even know? I don't have time for this. I got a tea time with my publicist at 12:30 at the club.
So are you still the phone screener for the Rich Eisen show?
Do I pick up the phones? Of course. Of course I'm still the phone screener. Have you heard anything?
You guys see that? No, go.
Adam, man.
I mean,
he put all those together, Adam, right?
Yeah.
You know what's great? Today is actually
Good job,
National
Adam.
PBJ Day.
Oh, my God.
So those are part of my poll questions. That
All right, we got to get to that. We'll get to that.
That's my daily meal every
Funny
day
idea.
at grammar school.
Dude.
Homemade
Oh, man, my
PBJ from my
mom,
mother.
OMG.
Mom used to make those.
That or a Twinkie or a Ding Dong.
Twinkie?
Oh, dude,
Or ring ding.
ho-hos.
Yeah, it was either a Twinkie or a Ring Ding.
I mean, Little Debbie, like the
That's
Swiss,
a little
Swiss
older,
cake
yeah.
rolls, and
No,
man, grew up on those.
That's right. Little Debbie's up near. Yeah, that's
Little Debbie, man.
Yeah. She's gonna be Big Deborah at the end of this quarantine.
Big
They
Deborah.
posted that on Twitter.
Who did that?
Somebody posted it like Little Debbie and said at the end of the quarantine.
Just look
Big
at things
Deborah.
differently these
Yeah.
days. Did you see the Instagram I put out, the Brady Zoom? You look at the Brady bunch, all 9 of them sitting there. It looks like a Zoom.
They were the originals.
Yeah.
We did a Zoom dance party last night.
I was laughing at the one you posted of the the lady getting out of the hot tub.
Oh yeah, I've seen that, and then I cracked up when I saw it again.
Falling on her
with the Gwen Stefani.
I don't know how it appeared on my Twitter timeline last night.
Yeah.
I'm like, I saw it. I watched it 5 times and laughed harder each time.
Yeah.
And so I retweeted it. I tweeted it out saying, I don't know why did I enjoy this so very much?
Yes.
I'm looking at it's got the
Yeah,
number
yeah,
of people
yeah,
that have,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
It had 14,000 views when I hit it out.
I saw it. Well, I saw
It's closing in on 2 million.
Yeah. Well, your tweet alone has 17,000 likes.
Wow.
See the stuff people like.
I guess people need a little diversion. I feel like Rex Chapman all of a sudden.
Good job. I mean, blocker charge on that.
Oh.
I mean,
She charged the
people go check it out at Rich Eisen is my Twitter feed. It's laugh out loud funny,
very
right?
funny,
Because
yeah.
people
Oh,
just
yeah.
keep on pratfalling, and somebody found the right music for all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. How much time do we back, Chris?
We got a minute
Mike?
40. We
All
got time.
Very
Oh,
good.
we got lots of time.
Yeah.
Very good. What's going on in our wormhole? Anybody?
Bots are out of.
What's the matter with
people
this?
were talking about.
Are we the
Tom
only
Cruise
ones who have
movies.
this problem?
No, no, bots come in everywhere.
All right.
Bots are Ooh, a Minority Report too. That'd be awesome.
Minority Report was not a bad one.
That's a good movie.
I never saw that. That's it.
How about this one? How about this one? Or did we talk about this? We talked about this on the radio show. We should wait till
we
the
can
radio
wait.
show,
We can
the
wait.
radio audience returns. All right. And then you got your poll questions.
Then I got a couple poll.
Let's hit
poll
Sky
ideas.
Judge top of the next hour.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I love the Sky
Hold
Judge.
on, I'm just gonna tweet out which Top Gun movie.
Okay. a blind spot, Christopher. Here from Risky Business, obviously the famed scene of him singing Bob Seger in his underwear, right?
Right.
Okay.
Domino's commercial.
Song.
Right, where he's all by himself in the house, previewing Home Alone. Where you're all by yourself, you're kind of celebrating in your house as a kid. Two other aspects of that film stand out. Depeche Mode. Remember Depeche Mode?
Yes, of course.
And 3 words, Rebecca De Mornay. Oh, man. When I was a kid,
yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, I was 2 when that movie came out.
All right, so you need to see it again. You need to see it. But him now as the parent and the kid, and the kid is now. I don't know how you could come up with it, but there is a way to have Risky Business.
I do like the idea of a cocktail sequel. What about? I mean,
by the way,
it's a near perfect movie. What about A Few Good Men? We see what Daniel Caffey's up to. Maybe he's a judge now, or maybe he's.
Don't touch A Few Good Men.
Just saying.
What would it be?
He releases.
Just saying, I'm like, he's
A Few Good Seniors. I mean, like, what is it?
A Few Good Seniors.
You could modernize it.
Yeah.
You could 21st century that bad boy.
No.
All right. What about The Firm?
The Firm.
See what Mitch Mateer's up to later on. Could be good.
Was that the last hurrah of Wilford Brimley? Was that Wilford Brimley's last hurrah?
Stand by.
The Firm.
By the way, how about a fantasy name for that?
Wilford Brimley's last hurrah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. What's Wilford been in since then?
All right, hold on.
And by the way, bringing these two things together, that Tom Cruise in the last Mission Impossible movie, running in London, doing all those stunts. We had Henry Cavill on the show confirming that Tom Cruise broke his leg.
Right? Also flew the helicopter.
Right. His ankle, broke his ankle, right?
That's nuts.
That Tom Cruise running in London and doing all of that stuff in Mission Impossible, same age Wilford Brimley was during Cocoon. These are facts.
Wilford's
that is
been
a
working.
fact.
Wilford Brimley's still working.
Because it's the right thing to do? What is it?
He was in something in 2017 called I Believe. He played a pastor.
Okay.
I mean,
Timber the Treasure Dog. He played a character named Hawk Jones.
Of course he did. But I mean, in terms of major feature films.
Major feature films.
The Firm.
That's got to be close to the end.
Yeah, he was in a Seinfeld episode. Remember, he was the Postmaster General.
Oh, do we ask Jeff about that? Did Jeff write that episode?
Hold on, let's see. The
Did we go down a Wilford Brimley wormhole with Jeff Schaffer?
Title called Junk Mail.
Oh, my gosh. What's your poll question over there?
Okay, so I got 2. Just talking NFL draft with the Tua stuff. Who would you take first, Tua or Joe Burrow?
Okay.
Or it's PB&J day.
Oh,
what's the best sandwich? A PB&J,
yes.
A club sandwich, that's just anything with lunch meat,
yep.
Or a grilled cheese.
Straight up.
Straight up.
Okay. Do you want to do deli meat?
Well, that's kind of what a club sandwich is. Anything with deli meat.
I don't know. Club sandwich, you think it's like turkey. You
can have a ham club sandwich. You have a chicken club sandwich.
Okay.
You can have.
Fine. Put it out. It's PB&J. Let's be honest. I literally had peanut butter and jelly for lunch every day in either my Spider-Man lunchbox or my Hong Kong Phooey lunchbox.
Hong Kong Phooey.
Or my my Scooby-Doo lunchbox. Every year.
Lunchboxes
grades 1 through 5th.
With the thermos.
Don Bowie thinks that he's got a better poll question for you.
Great. Well, why didn't you suggest
jelly,
it earlier?
Your favorite jelly?
Favorite jelly?
Strawberry or grape?
No, just regular grape.
Who doesn't like grape jelly?
Grape. Chunky peanut butter.
Hour number 3.
Oh.
The NFL apparently considering putting an eye in the sky with a challenge flag.
I love it.
I don't know about that. That and talk Curb, Lil Dicky, and more with Jeff Schaffer, Hour 3. It's amazing. I'm looking in the wormhole right now. A lot of people are saying they had a Hong Kong Phooey lunchbox. I can't believe I forgot I had one too.
I didn't have Hong Kong.
I had Rambo.
By the way, 454s out there in the wormhole, I had a Hong Kong Phooey lunchbox as well. The voice of Hong Kong Phooey. Anybody? Anybody?
Oh, I know, too.
Scatman Crothers.
Yes. I should have
Voice
known
of
that.
Hong Kong Phooey.
Great name.
Number one super guy.
Number one super guy. Hong Kong.
I had Adam 12.
Smarter than a private eye.
Emergency.
Better than a private eye.
Yep, I used to watch that cartoon.
I had Adam 12 emergency. And I
man.
think might have had.
Ooh, a
only
BLT. That's a
3.
good one. That's a good sandwich. Should
So
we
put in
that
the
on
BLT.
there?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like the Adam 12 one. It had a little microphone. in it.
Adam 12 lunchbox.
It had a little microphone that you could actually hang.
Did you?
on.
I'm sure that was
Hold
not
on,
disruptive in school at all.
No. I mean, I was pretty much disruptive.
Yeah, you are.
New poll.
I talked.
That's
more
why
than
Howard Cosell wouldn't sign
Rich,
the ball
every
for you.
report card I have him says talkative. Everyone.
Was that were you unsatisfactory? Did you get a U? You remember that? That was the
yes.
grades.
I got. My mother threw me out of her class.
E for excellent, G for good.
For talking.
N was needs improvement. U
I
was
had,
unsatisfactory.
It was the worst.
I would get free video games with good grades at the Staten Island Mall.
God bless you, Rich.
Time Out was the name of the.
Yes, we had
was the
the
name of
timeouts.
the
arcade?
Was the name of the arcade.
We had those.
Time Out.
That was big. Yeah, New Jersey, New York.
What was your game?
Oh gosh, my game was like Ms. Pac-Man.
Like Pac-Man.
I loved it.
Asteroids.
Like asteroids.
I have it in my house.
Speaking of strong, Mike Del Tufo planking the aforementioned conversation about Michael Irvin and Steve Mariucci, because you came up with, you said that
I planked.
That you planked 245, and we're like 245.
Oh, wow.
No. It
245.
was 2 plates of 45, and that led to this fun.
Mike Del Tufo over there, when Justin Hartley of This Is Us was here on Friday, he planks weights on his back. Okay, there he is, putting plank after plank. Those are 45 pounds. He waves on more weight. See, come on, let's get some more. Right? Del Tufo sees this and he goes, I could do that, is what he said. And
Mike,
you said, he said he would do 145. Now we took that when he can do 145. How much weight do you think that means? Just off
145.
Right. No.
One plate that weighs 45 pounds.
Get out of here. One plate 45 pounds. How long you say you can do this?
A minute. Come on.
All right, here we go. Mike,
Hey, get off your knees.
Go to the right spot in your mind
now. Go to the right spot in your mind, buddy. Come on. Look at him. All we see is the finish line, baby. All we see
Coach
is
him up,
victory.
Herb.
That's
Coach
all
him
we
up.
see. Victory is simple, baby. Right
Uh-oh.
now,
Uh-oh.
don't worry about the body, baby. Our mind's controlling our body. Our
Preach,
body
Michael,
don't
preach.
control our mind. We got this, baby. We got this. We gonna show the world. That's what you're about to show.
What do we got?
Show the world, baby. Don't worry about it.
Just
Don't
only
worry
24
about it.
seconds.
Don't
Flatten
worry
out.
about it.
Flatten out,
Don't worry
Mike.
about it.
Here we
You got 2 blocks out.
All right.
You got 2 blocks gone.
Halfway home.
You got 2 blocks gone. You got
Halfway
2 more
home.
go. All see, just see that finish line. Look at the glory. Look at your chest touching the tape. Get your chest on that tape. Look at you, baby.
20
You're
seconds
coming
to go.
in. You're coming in 20 seconds, baby. You can finish this, man. We can do this. I'm kidding. 10 pounds. Be a man. Be a man. Get up there, buddy. Where you go, baby? Where you go? Think about what your lady gonna do.
I do that every day, people, at the gym.
I can't tell.
I do it.
Oh yeah.
I was playing the music.
Can't tell.
You gotta laugh after that.
Oh man.
You gotta laugh.
Can't
Oh, my
tell. All right, we're back in a minute.
Oh my God.
That's so funny.
Previously on the Rich Eisen Show.
Sean Payton here on the Rich Eisen Show.
I had a chance to listen to his interview, and yeah, I guarantee you many feel that that's the case. And then shortly thereafter, it was announced that, hey, the league is going to have this draft at the end of the month. I think the bigger scope of things was just relative to everything that's going on outside of us. This is going to be a tough month here for New Orleans, particularly Louisiana.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now.
Y'all ready for this?
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
The NFL is being bashed today for being tone deaf.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
I think it's just a little tone deaf to come out and say we're going to start the season on time with full stadiums.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
Look, we know this fall it's in doubt. So everybody's looking at the NFL to tell them something that we kind of already know.
Earlier on the show, from NFL Films, Greg Cosell, New York Times NBA columnist Marc Stein, Alabama offensive lineman Jedrick Wills. Coming up, plus executive producer of Netflix's Brews Brothers, Jeff Schaffer. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
All right, hour number 3, we're going to have some fun. Jeff Schaffer, who is somebody who's written some of the best Seinfeld episodes of all time and has been on the ground floor of Curb Your Enthusiasm all the way through Alec Berg, and has been written with him, and he's with Silicon Valley, and Dave Mandel was writing, and with those 3 guys were writing all those Seinfeld episodes together and a lot of the Curb shows at the very beginning. And we all know Alec Berg's gone on, as I mentioned, Silicon Valley, just to name one of the show that Alec has done, and Dave Mandel with Veep. Some very funny guys, all 3 of them. And Jeff's still with LD doing Curb. And he also helped co-create and executive produces Dave on FXX, Lil Dicky, which is...
that show's awesome.
I mean, it is breaking all sorts of streaming records right now, as where
so
many of us are looking for a diversion. The latest one for Jeff is Brews Brothers, created by his brother, Greg Schaffer, who serves as a showrunner and writer. And Jeff's going to join us coming in the middle of this hour. He's a big Seahawk fan. We'll have a lot of fun. Season 11 of Curb has got to happen. Let's be very honest. It's got to happen. LD's PSA, Larry David's PSA to stay at home was brilliant. Millions of views. I don't know if Jeff had anything to do with putting the LD in that chair and having him just do his thing on behalf of the state of California in Gavin Newsom's office. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Marc Stein was here in hour 2 talking about whatever the NBA might be thinking in any way, shape, or form to have a playoffs and have the end of a regular season and a playoff sometime in the late summer. Greg Cosell joined us because the draft is going to go down. He's not a big fan of Tua. He's like, it should be Joe Burrow. And then when I mentioned Chase Young, should he go to Washington at 2 overall? He said, hey, would you, in this day and age, go with a lockdown corner or a pass rusher? Because quarterbacks are getting rid of the ball faster. So wouldn't you want to create, in essence, to create the problem matchup-wise and also post-snap decision-wise, to create the biggest pressure problem for a quarterback? Is it maybe shutting down half the field, or is it putting the pressure on the quarterback? And I gave the answer, I'll take the pass rusher. He said, I totally hear you. He said, Jeff Okudah reminds me of Champ Bailey. Okay.
High praise.
I know. And then Isaiah Simmons, he thinks that he could go, if you're the Giants, I know you're trying to protect Daniel Jones, but got to go with him. Not a fan of Tua. He said he would take Jordan Love over Herbert and Tua. But Joe Burrow is the absolutely number 1 overall pick in this draft. That's just paraphrasing and summarizing some of the stuff that he had to say in hour 1. Go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, to go down all sorts of video wormholes, including what we heard in hour number 1 and hour number 2 from Marc Stein, including this entire show. Once we're done, we'll post it on our YouTube page. Please subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And I think you'll appreciate it too. Certainly if you're looking for any sort of diversion because you subscribe to our YouTube page, they will constantly make suggestions from our archive for you to see. It'll pop up on your phone as an alert, and I think you should please do it. That's all I'm saying. Be a lot of fun. Let's take some phone calls here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's go to Matt in Minnesota. You're here on the program. What's up, Matt?
Hey, guys. Rich, I wanted to ask you something in just a second. I want you to repeat what you mentioned about the Lions draft and this double trade thing. I got distracted. I didn't quite hear about it. But can I mention a little family nugget to you guys real quick?
Sure.
You were just talking about the movie Risky Business.
Yes, because we were talking about how just to reset that the Top Gun sequel Maverick has been pushed back from June to December. So we started talking about what movies, what other Tom Cruise movies we'd love to see a sequel to. I mentioned Risky Business. That'd be a lot of fun.
Well, it's funny because I can ask a family member if he's heard anything. You guys, and I'm being serious about this. My cousin, Kurt Armstrong, he was actually in that movie with Tom Cruise. He played his friend Miles.
Okay.
And most people, when I bring it up, that have seen it, one of his famous lines, and I can't say exactly what he said. They were at the poker table, and he said, "Every once in a while, you got to say what the blank."
Yeah. Oh, are you serious? So Booger is your cousin?
See, that's the next thing I was going to say, because that's what most people say when I mention that my cousin is Kurt.
From Revenge of the Nerds?
He doesn't necessarily. Pardon me?
From Revenge of the Nerds. Booger.
Oh, well, he was in 3 of the Nerds movies. I think there might have been a 4th, but yeah, he doesn't particularly want to be remembered for Booger, but he also knows that it was a cult thing, and everybody just loved it. You guys, he's really carved out quite a nice career. He lives in Hollywood Hills. He lives right out there with you guys.
Okay.
And with his wife, Elaine, his daughter's name is Lily. She's going to school and working in London, England, and stuff. But he's such a great guy. Now, did you guys see the Domino's commercial from the Super Bowl?
No, I did not see that one. I must have been traveling home. He's in it?
It's a quick one. They have a guy dressed doing the Tom Cruise thing in his underwear.
Right.
And he gets a pizza delivered at the door, and it's my cousin is the delivery boy, and he says one of the lines from Risky Business. So if you can Google the commercial,
fantastic.
If they show my cousin. Yeah,
well, Matt,
it's really kind. He's a great guy, too.
Matt, thanks for the call. Say hi to your cousin for us. And in terms of the Lions, just to repeat what I said at the top of the show, look, I'm the Lions. I'm sitting there at 3. I'm trying to get the Dolphins to trade up for Tua from 5 to 3, and then I'm sitting there at 5, and I'm like, who wants Justin Herbert? And get the Chargers to move up from 6 to 5. That's what I'm getting. And then you move down to 6, you get a ton of draft help, and then you draft whoever the hell you wanted to get at 3 overall anyway, because 3 quarterbacks have been taken in the top 5, including Chase Young. And we're assuming the Giants take a lineman. And your Lions, you get could you imagine, you have your choice. Could you imagine you trade down twice, you get all the draft capital from the Dolphins, and then just again, Here's what the Niners gave up to go. The Bears gave up to go at one spot 3-2 for Trubisky a couple years ago. They gave up a 3 and a 4 one in that draft and a 3 in the next draft. So to go from 6 to 5, you'd get a couple of picks.
Yep.
Right. But from 5 to 3, you'd get probably another first from Miami, because you could really hold them up.
And at least another third or fourth.
And you still get the choice between Okudah and Simmons anyway.
2 guys you were going to take it at 3.
That's what the Lions are trying to pull off. Can they? I don't know. But how can you game the system in order to do it? I don't know. But I bet that's the good stuff right there if you're the Lions. You got somebody sitting there at 5 and sitting there at 6 for 2 quarterbacks that they could get at 3. Play them both off against each other and sold. I would sell it to Miami, because you can get the most out of them, and then you're still sitting there in front of the Chargers. And then you call up Tom Telesco. Hey, I know it didn't work out for 3, but how about for 5? Just move up one spot. We'll take a couple. Just wet my beak a little bit. And we still get the choice that we had at 3. That's the way they want.
And you get maybe 4 more picks?
To go. 3 or 4, yeah. Yeah. Including another one later on in this draft that we're already talking about that you could get.
Get another wide receiver.
You can get a top 10 pick later on in the teens. Love it. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Okay, before we get to Jeff Schaffer, According to reports, I saw one on Florio's site, Pro Football Talk, talking about how the competition committee, although this was not mentioned by Sean Payton yesterday, I didn't ask him the direct question. I asked him about pass interference, and he essentially said the conversation about whether pass interference should remain reviewable after the 1-year trial that failed miserably in the NFL last year. There's no other way to put it because there was no consistent application of it. It was totally maddening all the way down to the end of the season when there was one that wasn't called in the end zone, and Jeff Schaffer will talk all about it, being a diehard Seahawk fan. The play before Hollister was stopped on the 1-inch yard line. Clearly, there was pass interference in the end zone. That's exactly what it should be there for. Less than 2 minutes to go. Wasn't called. Clear contact. No flag. Pass interference in the end zone. This is exactly why we had this in place last year and didn't happen. And then, Saints fans will definitely talk for a long time that Kyle Rudolph pushed off in the end zone in the playoff game in overtime for a game winner. No call. This is what it should be there for. Didn't happen. He said, Sean Payton yesterday, he's on the competition committee, and we all know he was one of the more important driving forces to get this thing as reviewable for last year. His point was, hey, everything's been going on with the coronavirus and trying to figure out the draft has pushed everything back and a little bit down in terms of something that needs to be addressed right away. That was the conversation. He did not mention that the sky judge, to essentially have somebody sitting up top in an NFL stadium looking at every play and throwing a flag and buzzing down when it needs to be called for anything that apparently is reviewable. And we'll see if pass interference would be considered that. And this was apparently used in the AAF, correct, Mike? Which you were in the booth for?
Yeah, we actually set it up.
So when you set it up, what do you mean you set it up?
We were one of the first guinea pigs, my show, that was like getting it to work.
Your broadcast.
Yeah, the one that I was.
You were
working
the one
on.
to set up because the Sky Judge was hooked up to the booth.
Basically hooked up to what they were using is the college football replay system that was in all the stadiums we were at.
Right.
They were basically using that system, and we could go to him between the ref on the field and the booth.
Right, to
and
have
you could
it
listen back
explained.
and forth.
You can listen to the back and forth.
And we had to kind of create the system to make it work.
And so,
which was cool.
I know you like the fact that the Sky Judge was used. My issue with a Sky Judge is this. I'm not talking about that the Sky Judge needs to be consistent in all games. That's the problem, because there's going to be different Sky Judges. You remember when the review process was a replay official? Somebody did it in San Diego for the Chargers game. Didn't call it the same way as somebody did in Jacksonville. That's why the NFL has now a centralized system where it's one crew that's looking at the same thing all the time. So that's a problem, is that the Sky Judges are now going to have maybe different interpretations. Drive you crazy. But the thing that drives fans most nuts are late flags or flags on plays or flags on fouls that are off your television screen. Illegal contact on right side of the field, even though quarterback looked left the entire time and threw left. Incomplete. My team's off the field. Punt. Let's go. Let's get the ball back. Oh, no, there's a flag on the play. Right. Somebody had illegal contact way away from the action, and even worse, something you did not see with your own naked eye during the game as it was being broadcast.
Yeah, no.
And you're like, oh, my God. And then they show you, and it's ticky-tack, or it's a viable play, but it's just like, why are you calling that? It's not even close. The quarterback wasn't even going that direction. Now imagine a Sky Judge. Now imagine a Sky Judge making this call from up top. And in order, at least you see a yellow flag on the field that somebody in your broadcast team truck sees and has it spotted, and somebody says, put the yellow flag up on the right part of the screen. Put that yellow flag graphic up and you sitting at home know as in as real time as possible something's happened. Or you even see the flag arcing in to your screen. Sky Judge, what are they going to do? They're going to basically say, flag on the play to who? Somebody down in the field who will then take out their flag and drop it down seconds after the play's over? When will the Sky Judge ring in with his or her decision that there was a foul on the play?
They did it. They were pretty quick. But before the next play.
But, I mean, before the next play. Again, when are you going to chime in that this has happened? Now, I know that you've seen it in action with the AAF, but in the NFL, 3rd and 8, fourth quarter, playoff game, week 18 of the 2021 season, right? 7 and 8 versus 7 and 8, playoff on the line. Okay? I know that won't be a week 18 record, but you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Then all of a sudden, yep, that was illegal contact. I'm seeing it in real time, or I'm just seeing it on replay. Flag on the play. Somebody buzzes in, yeah, or week 1, week 2, I'm sure they'll try and get it right. All the officials will look around saying, who threw the flag? I guess they'll hear in their ears from the Sky Judge, there's a flag on the play, and someone will immediately take a flag out and throw it down.
They stop
and then they'll stop it down, and then that Sky Judge will overrule the white hat on the field.
Yeah, so what they do is they're watching, they got the monitors. They're doing this. They're actually physically doing it.
I'm sure, but the white hat on the field is the official.
Yeah.
And the official didn't see it, but the Sky Judge is now part of the team saying, I've got the penalty on the play. I guess in the same way that a back judge would, and the official, the white hat, has to accept this penalty on behalf of the entire crew. I just don't know, man. I don't know how workable it is, and I just don't know how many fans will appreciate thinking is enough NFL action where you think your team is off the field, or you think your team has scored, or you think your team has gotten a first down, and you are euphoric or you're disappointed or whatever, and you're looking around did the play stand? And then suddenly in comes the Sky Judge. How pissed are you going to be? Right?
I mean, just think at the beginning of last year, every single big play that happened on the field, I just assumed was getting called back.
Because of the holds.
Yeah, there were so many holdings in the first month of the season. Any 50-yard run, long pass play, you just assumed it was coming back.
Until Brady tweeted about it during a Thursday Night Football game.
And then it all went away.
Supposedly that
allegedly
was a connected issue. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm all for technology. I'm Mr. Replay. I love replay. I don't want replay to go anywhere. I think it just needs to be improved. I just don't know how it would be improved adding somebody who's not seen, right, is part of it. I just don't know. But we'll see how it all works out. Jeff Schaffer, my buddy, I've known him for a very long time. Curb Your Enthusiasm, Dave, Mr. Lil Dicky himself, and his new show, Brews Brothers. Die-hard Seahawks fan. We'll have some fun and some laughs with Jeff Schaffer. His new show with his brother, Netflix's Brews Brothers. That's next. All right, we're in our YouTube section right now. YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show to watch us. When Jeff comes on, I want to ask him if he had anything to do with this. Once again, over 2 million views now, I think, on Twitter alone. Larry David and his public service announcement on behalf of the state of California and Governor Gavin Newsom. Check it out.
Hello, I'm Larry David. Obviously, somebody put me up to this because it's generally not the kind of thing I do, but I basically want to address the idiots out there, and you know who you are. You're going out, I don't know what you're doing, you're socializing too close, it's not good, you're hurting old people like me. Well, not me, I have nothing to do with you, I'll never see you, but let's say other old people who might be your relatives, who the hell knows. But the problem is you're passing up a fantastic opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to stay in the house, sit on the couch, and watch TV. I mean, I don't know how you're passing that up. Well, maybe because you're not that bright. But here it is. Go home, watch TV. That's my advice to you. you know, if you've seen my show, nothing good ever happens going out of the house. You know that. There's just trouble out there. It's not a good place to be. So stay home and you know, don't see anyone except maybe if there's a plumbing emergency, let the plumber in and then, you know, wipe everything down after he leaves. But that's it. Okay.
That may be my favorite part of the PSA is the end. Okay.
Okay.
Do it for me, although we'll never cross paths. You won't see me.
Well, you're not going to see me. It's fine.
My dad would have loved that one. Man, my dad loved Larry David.
I mean, who
My
doesn't?
mom loves him too, but I mean, just, oh, man. Okay.
I mean,
what would your spite store be?
Oh, good question. Good question. This is my spite store. The Rich Eisen Show is my spite store.
Come on, that's too easy.
it's a spite store.
This is my spite store.
What would your spite store
Look, seriously,
I would coffee. Starbucks.
I'm just being honest with you.
Okay.
You know what? I do this out of love. I do love doing it, okay?
Yes.
But so many aspects of the sports, television, talk world,
right?
Argument, split screen, saying one thing and
you don't really
not
mean
being
it.
held accountable when you're
no
wrong.
accountability for
Never admitting anything other than just saying stuff, and people flock to it. I mean, it's successful. But I've opened my spite store right next door, you know, except that we have a couple of areas where you can defecate, right?
Yes,
so that's kind of the
true.
difference.
We have regular urinals. They're regular. We do have a lot of Purell
latte
on hand.
Larry's where you could not.
There is a wobbly table right here.
No
Mike's got a
defecation.
I got a
table.
wobbly table.
No defecation
I mean, that was
in latte Larry's. When I saw that, I laughed out loud. Just that you can't go. It just
the ending was great.
Do it
too.
at home. Do it at home.
The ending of
Do it at home.
The ending though, with them next door. I mean,
this season was
this season was great.
Oh
it was
my
great.
God.
funny.
JB was out.
Remember that?
of control. It was so funny.
I don't care. I'll just talk about it on our YouTube feed here for the.
A lot of great cameos.
The Stephen Bochco story about the actor Daniel Benzali, you know, the bald guy from Murder One,
Mm-hmm.
and how he was late all the time to set because he lived in Malibu and he could not report to work until he was done with his morning dump. Was the phrase, and he was constantly late, and he begged him, how about have your coffee when you get here? Nope. How about he even offered him, it's in his book, offered to rent him an apartment around the corner so he could go at home,
fast.
like just to change his different home.
Right.
Nope. So if you know, he only lasted 1 year on Murder One, that show.
Yeah.
Because
It was a good show.
because of that. I'm telling you, people just got it. And that's what Larry said, go home.
I mean,
I love this conversation,
I mean,
even
it was
though it's
so
definitely
good.
off color a little bit.
it's so good.
God damn. All right, let's take a break. We're back with Jeff Schaffer in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. This is going to be a fun chat. So we all could use a laugh. And this man is expert at providing it, whether it was writing for Seinfeld back in the day and producing. Also an executive producer and director and writer on Curb Your Enthusiasm. He has now the EP and co-creator of Dave on FXX, combining forces with Lil Dicky, and he and his brother Greg Schaffer will have a new show, Brews Brothers, available for streaming on Netflix starting next week. Pleased to be calling this man my friend for a very long time, the very funny and talented director, writer, producer Jeff Schaffer on the show. How you doing, Jeff?
I am doing great. Hey, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is there a picture of me up, or is there just some sort of crude drawing of me with no pants holding a lime Ricky?
No, actually,
that would be accurate.
No, right now it's no, it's a photograph of you. It's an action photo of you, and in what appears to be in front of an FXX step and repeat. Jeff, maybe it does look current. Could be from the era of you doing the league as well. But that's what we have chosen for you. Very handsome.
All right. Well, I guess you can always, your graphics department can always remove the pants and add a drink. That's fine. That's fair.
How are you, Jeff? You doing all right? Everybody good in your world?
Yeah, everyone's good. Everyone's good. I have to say,
yes. Have
you talked to anyone about the what's going to be arriving on your desk?
Not yet, Jeff. You may have it. You have the floor, sir. This is stuff. Uh-oh. This is coming. Go for it, Jeff.
News?
Go for it. Breaking news.
So this is just for fans of the Rich Eisen show. There's going to be a new that desk of Rich's, that august slab of wood or formica, I can't remember.
Plexiglass.
Is going to have a new friend, an actual mug, an actual self-heating mug from Latte Larry.
Oh, wow. It didn't get burned down?
It did get burned down, huh? It didn't get burned down.
A few were spared. And I know what everyone's asking. All of the Purell was burnt. All of Purell is gone.
Well, it was the accelerant. It was the accelerant, Jeff, right? It was an accelerant.
Oh, that was funny.
But I got to say, Rich, I am so excited that you were so fond of the season that in this dark, crazy time, you had someone get a coffee cup that's been handled by countless strangers, hit by Lord knows who, maybe Larry, maybe Leon, maybe just an extra from Rosita who has Hep C. And you want to put it on your desk next to your face and your phone. I'm honored.
I am going to spray that down like it's the movie Silkwood, Jeff. So don't worry, man. We're going to... It will be cleansed and disinfected by the time it hits this desk, but I had to have it. It is just such... That whole concept of a spite store, where in the world did that come from, Jeff? Walk me through how you and Larry conceived of a spite store.
So at the beginning of every season... we're trying to figure out what we want to do for an arc, and we're throwing around ideas. And Larry mentioned that there was a place, not in Los Angeles, somewhere else, I won't tell you where, that had treated him poorly. And it was a coffee place. And he thought to himself, God, I wish I could just rent the place next door and drive them out of business. I was like, well, on the show you can.
You're right. And thus, that's how that was born. Where did you come up with the table, the scone, the Purell, and of course the no defecating? How did that all come about, Jeff?
Once we knew that we were going to do this spite store, we thought, this is a great opportunity for us to, have it being built throughout the season, and that gives Larry a chance to really put his good eye on how to improve a coffee store, a coffee shop. He's not an inventor, he's an improver. So we started to talk about all the little things that bothered us about a store. And we just thought Larry in the service industry would have a lot of good input. Because, just to bring this full circle, I heard you talking before about the Sky Judge.
Yes.
You understand Larry is the world's Sky Judge.
That's true. That's true.
He's the Sky Judge of planet Earth, Larry David. I love it.
He's watching. He's watching.
Exactly, about whether somebody's doing the right thing with cell phone etiquette or doing the right thing in any sort of fact of life. You're right. Larry is the world's Sky Judge, so it is working out. Or sometimes it is a little messy, though, Jeff. It really is.
I can't repeat on the show what Vince Vaughn said about his version of making omelets. But, sometimes a few big genitals got to knock over some stuff to
Well, we did
get a store running.
That's right, or burn down, as we saw in the end of your season-long arc. Jeff Schaffer here from Curb and Dave on FXX, and soon to be on Netflix starting next Friday. Brews Brothers, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get into Dave, man. How did you get hooked up with Lil Dicky? How did that happen, Jeff?
So I was, as busy with Curb, I wasn't really looking to do a show, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, you got to meet this guy. You got to meet Lil Dicky." And, I mean, I knew who Lil Dicky was. I mean, it was a few years ago, and at that point, the Internet was like, I don't know, 60% porn, 20% clickbait, and like 20% Lil Dicky videos. So I was aware, but I never met him. So we're talking. I sit down with him at Scooter Braun's place, and we're talking, and he was telling me stories about his life, and they were really funny, Curb-esque stories. There's a lot of Larry David in Dave Bird. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. He's actually a funny guy. But the other thing that really intrigued me was, as he's sitting there talking to me, he's telling me, look, I'm going to be the biggest entertainer in the history of entertainment. I'm like, all right, well, you've had a lot of success in the video world. I get it. You get where that confidence is coming from. But he's like, no, I was this confident before I'd done anything, before I'd rapped in front of my girlfriend, before I'd ever rapped in public. I knew I was going to be this. And I just said, wow, so this guy who, looks like a piece of broccoli had a bar mitzvah is going to be the biggest entertainer in the world, he believes. And I was just like, wow, this is like a cartoon-level delusion. This is amazing. And that's a really funny engine for a show.
And thus Dave was born on the spot. I got to tell you, man, our cameo in episode 4, our phones blew up. I mean, this show is taken off, Jeff. I mean, that I could tell just that alone, the number of people that lit us up on our Twitter feeds and phones. So that was a fun cameo that we took part in.
You guys clapped up the joint. Dave on FX is another Rich Eisen joint. It's a Chris Brockman joint.
It is. I know. Chris heard all about it too.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Look, you guys always had just a little Susan of class. Always good.
By the way, that's not a bad fantasy team name. Susan of Class.
That's a good one.
Which one did we come up with before earlier today?
Wilford Brimley's Last Hurrah.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley's Last Hurrah was our latest fantasy team name, because we were talking about the Firm, and we wondered if that was Wilford Brimley's Last Hurrah, being the heavy and the firm, Jeff.
Wow. That may be. By the way.
Well, did you put him in Seinfeld? Did you put him in that Postmaster episode? You did.
He was the Postmaster. Exactly.
How did you cast Wilford Brimley in that? How the hell did that happen?
Andy Robin and Greg Cavett, who wrote that episode, just thought it would be the funniest thing in the world to have Wilford Brimley be the Postmaster, and they were right.
It's just that simple sometimes. It's funny. We had Lil Dicky on in 2016, and he talked about what a diehard fan of the Eagles he was, and we tried to get him to write a rap for Andy Reid called "Time's Yours," because Andy Reid would always lift off start a press conference after a game with the names of the injured, and then just turn to the media and say "Time is yours." Andy Reid just would not do it. We couldn't get him to do it, man. I know. That'd have been actually good. I know that would have been totally amazing.
But by the way, thank you guys so much for doing that cameo. And people are really loving the show. There was something just came out yesterday it's now the second highest most seen comedy in FX history. People are really finding it. So thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, people are clearly looking for some sort of diversion, something to make them laugh. Tell me about Brews Brothers, Jeff. What is this? You and your brother? Is this based on your relationship in any way, shape, or form? That's going to start streaming on Netflix next Friday, the 10th of April. What is this?
So Brews Brothers, my brother had this idea for a show about sort of two idiot brothers who were running a craft brewery in Van Nuys. And I was like, and he showed me this, he's sort of talking about it, and it was really, really funny. And I thought, oh, well, this is actually the next logical progression from the league, because what's more popular than football? Beer. and it is about two brothers who've been apart for a long time who get together, and they're not very good together. They're both individually, they both have a lot of issues, and together it's just worse. And it's a really funny show. And I thought also it's a craft brewery, and that's a bubble that needed to get burst. I mean, everybody and their dumb uncle is telling you that like this IPA or that IPA is too hoppy, and it's just I can't take it. So yes, we did the show, and if you like the league, you will love this show. It's a new batch of really funny young improvisers, and it is just good, clean, filthy fun.
Okay. Well, and it sounds like the way you feel about craft breweries, this sounds like your Spite brewery that you're opening up right now on FXS. This is your Spite brewery.
This brewery has a lot of problems. I mean, Van Nuys is, as you know, it's known for auto body shops and the porn industry, sex shops, and this brewery happens to be between an auto body shop and a sort of MedMen style sex shop, a high-end erotic dispensary, as they call it.
Dispensary. Fantastic.
Yeah, but these two brothers, it's like one of them, this guy Wilhelm, well, his name is Will, but he changed his name to actually to Wilhelm. He loves everything German, and he changed his name to Wilhelm in honor of this old Prussian duke from Germany who was responsible for the Reinheitsgebot, which was the German purity law of like 1534, as opposed to the more recent German purity law of 1934. Dude. I thought you just bite your tongue.
Dude.
I can hear it. So this guy just wants this place to be the perfect hang. He'll get drunk with the customers, forget to charge them. And the other brother who, let's just put it this way. When Greg first told me about this show, I was instantly interested, and not just because the asshole older brother was an homage to me.
Fantastic. Jeff Schaffer here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, let's finish up with some questions about what's going on with Curb and Larry. All right, first of all, did you have anything to do with the PSA that's gone totally wildfire of Larry telling idiots to stay at home on behalf of the state of California?
So the genesis of this is my wife, Jackie, who's been helping out with the governor's office to try and get some people to do PSAs,
okay,
to get everyone to stay at home. And so she talked to Larry and me, and Larry was at first interested but semi-resistant about just putting something out on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But so we talked it through, and we were talking about ideas, and he's like, all right, let's try it. And so he just, he had, I think he had his daughter Cassie film it, and he sent it and said, oh, this is really funny. And he's like, I don't know if we should put it out. I'm like, you got to put it out. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And so he finally relented, and now I think he's very glad he did.
Wow. I mean,
it was a good way to do a good thing.
How many takes?
How many takes?
Yeah, how many takes do you think?
One.
That's it?
One.
Oh, come on.
One.
That's it? He didn't? One take, Larry.
But, you know how I know it?
How?
There's no way he would have done a second take.
I just love the end where he says, okay, we're done now. It's okay.
By the way, it's so funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
He knew when we were talking about it, well, the first thing he said is, I know how I'm going to end it. I'm just going to end it with a, okay.
Okay, so there's that. Now, what's going on with season 11? Is there going to be one? Curb season 11? Jeff?
Larry and I are doing a lot of FaceTiming.
Okay.
So we're definitely talking about it. And I got to say, Rich, I don't know, do all of your listeners know about your side hustle? That in addition to all the other things you do,
yes,
that you also have a side hustle as quality control for Curb Your Enthusiasm?
We talk about that on occasion. I don't know if I go back and forth. Is it like Fight Club or not? Am I allowed to talk about the fact that I'm part of a crew that sees the shows in an edit bay to check on all of it?
For sure.
Okay, quality
For
control.
Sure. You just
okay.
You just can't give any details, or the Sky Judge will fine you.
That's it. Right? Yeah, no, people are. Yeah, we do talk about that on occasion, and
okay,
and it's truly one of the most amazing things that's ever happened. So yes, I love it.
So anyway, I think Larry never wants to be put in the position where he has to put the show out. So
right.
We usually have a pretty big, have made a lot of headway before we'd ever admit we're doing another season.
Right.
But I will tell you this: we're having fun talking about things.
So what is a FaceTime session like? Where you just this is where the next Spite Store idea comes up on a FaceTime between you and LD?
Yeah, we're talking about things. Well, first, Larry's got to plug in his iPad, and then we complain about how the outlets in his house aren't at shoulder height like all outlets should be. Why does everyone have to rummage, like a raccoon along the ground to plug things in? We complain about that, and a little chatting, and then we just start throwing ideas around.
Okay, so ideas are being thrown around for season 11 before you have to commit to anything. I like that. So that's we're checking that box for sure. And how is the Jets episode now that it has aired? How's that landing? Is everything good with Larry and the Jets based on what happened after that episode?
So here's the thing. First of all, there were so many closet Jets fans. I had people who I've known for a long time who never admitted they were Jets fans.
Yes.
Who were like, hey, I'm a Jets fan. I just got to say, that was the best thing I've ever seen. Like, wow, you were deep in the closet about the Jets.
Right.
So, but no, things are, I will say that Larry had a very nice chat with Adam Gase.
Okay.
And I think things are good. I mean, when Larry was telling people that he had a witness to his McCagnon talk about Lamar Jackson,
yes,
that was me. That was me. I was the witness.
So when he talked to McCagnon saying draft Lamar Jackson, and McCagnon basically gave him the same okay that Larry ended his PSA with, you were there for that part of the conversation?
Yep. It was a little pat on the head. There you go. Off you go, funny man. We got it. We're good. What need have the Jets for Lamar Jackson?
Here's the thing. This is what the beautiful thing about Larry's Jet fandom, as it was last summer when I saw that episode in the edit bay. Lights come on. When the lights come on, Chris, Larry's and Jeff have these notes, and they ask everyone in the room these questions.
Sure.
One of the first things Larry said to me is, like, he was nervous that the Jets would actually do well, thus making this episode that airs in January totally out of place. Right? Remember that, Jeff? He had that question?
Yeah, and I had been assuring him that can't happen because of JETS.
So I told him, I hear you, that he was such a fan, like, wait, it's Le'Veon Bell's coming, all of that stuff. And then week 2 hits when the mononucleosis happens, and I texted you guys saying, you're fine. That episode's going to be just great in January. And then the episode airs. You added a mononucleosis scene, did you not, to that?
Yeah, we knew we were going to leave a little slot open. We did a reshoot late because we wanted to capture whatever was going on in that somber, sad soap opera that is the Jets. We wanted to make sure we caught some of it. So yeah, you bet we put in something about mono. Who gets mono? Like you're a high school girl on the swim team and school is hard, and you get mono. It's just only the Jets.
I love it. So isn't that amazing? You left a little spot for the inevitable Jets trapdoor opening for a little bit of an add-on. Man, you're the best, Jeff. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's stay in touch, man. Your new show, Dave, is on fire. Wednesdays, 10 Eastern on FXX. You could just check it out the next day on Hulu. The streaming is through the roof. Curb Season 10 was amazing. Love to hear that Season 11 is potentially already getting some of the designs placed in. Brews Brothers going to debut on Netflix Friday, April 10th. Look forward to that. You take care of yourself.
Hey, great talking to you guys. Stop touching your face.
Thank you, brother. Right back at you. That is a very good suggestion. I knew he had something to do with that PSA.
One take,
Larry.
Okay.
By the way.
All right.
He was gonna. I don't know if I was going to say anything, but the self-heating mug's on the way.
Wow.
We are going to have a Latte Larry mug right here on the Rich Eisen Show set.
That is awesome.
Automatically top 5 knick-knack that we have on the set, right?
Great. It's pretty great.
Pretty good. The human sky judge, everybody.
I mean, he is.
All right. Back with more in a moment. Oh, boy. The comedian Bobby Slayton was the guy who played Carl, who killed himself over the Jets and had
with the
Jane Krakowski
the
playing the wife
of
a part of
I mean,
her anatomy that
I mean,
intrigues
everybody. Funkhauser's nephew or something.
Well, that's Vince Vaughn.
Right. No.
Vince Vaughn plays Funkhauser's nephew.
Vince Vaughn.
No, I know.
Vince Vaughn was
he was unbelievable.
To call Vince Vaughn additive is an understatement.
It was
Vince Vaughn in this season's episode of Curb.
To Mexico to get the beans.
That whole episode where
that was Timothy Oliphant
where
playing the groom.
The buddies getting married in the room.
They have to get your weight. I mean, he gets them to get the weight.
And then of all, because my note for that episode, by the way, these are. I'll be honest with you. These are notes that were given.
Notes.
Okay. My notes for that episode. When the lights came up on the episode that you're referring to, the wedding, the destination wedding in Mexico, where, by the way, Jeff and Jackie got married at a destination wedding in Mexico. Susie and I were there, okay? And so I was wondering, okay, is this based on going to Mexico for your wedding? Definitely was going to ask that question until I realized I don't think Larry was there because, as you know, Larry's take on destination weddings.
Right. Anything over an hour.
And anything hour and a half drive from your house is just
dope.
Right. And then he has been here and he has said the answer to this. He thinks that any invitation for a destination wedding should come from the bride and groom with an apology to you.
Like, I'm sorry for making
you do this, right? Anyway, so my note when that opened up, okay, when the lights come on, Larry's first concern was the length of the episode because it was like 40-something. It was like a long episode. I think it was like the longest episode they've ever had. Yeah. I think it was a record for them, like 44 minutes, 45 minutes. I was the first person in the room to say this by 2 seconds. I beat maybe everyone in the room by 2 seconds because everybody said the same thing after Larry said what he said. Don't touch a frame.
Yeah.
Perfect. Getting the weight guesser guy and have everyone walked up and twirled around.
Don't touch a frame. And my second note was my favorite part about it was of any candy in a fancy hotel mini bar that reeks of too much. And if you eat more than you need to, it's gluttonous. Toblerone. Perfect choice of chocolate.
Favorite. Yeah.
All right, Don, you have it? You have it? Here, okay, roll it. Here is LD on our show. Larry David, we've done this before with you.
Yeah.
I've got 3 social situations. You are the judge and jury as to what is done.
Okay.
The first one is destination weddings. Okay.
It's already funny.
Destination weddings. I say to my wife, we're going to a destination wedding. We should not give a present because my presence is my present. What do you say, Larry David?
First of all, where is the wedding? How far is it?
Another country.
Okay, you don't even go. You don't go. You don't go.
But it's a close family friend.
I don't care. I am not flying 14 hours on a plane to somebody's wedding. I'm not going to do that.
What the distance from your house that you would
An hour and a half by car. That's it.
Here's social situation number 2 for you, Larry David.
Sure.
So you're going into somebody's house for, let's say, the fight, the Mayweather-McGregor fight. This happened to one of our producers, Ken Tulo, okay? They brought desserts. Fight ends. Nobody's touched the desserts. They like these desserts.
is it okay to take the desserts home?
It's still
a perishable.
You're bringing it to the host, right?
That's true.
The host saw it.
Mm-hmm.
It's different if the host didn't see it. Then you could sneak out with it.
So if the host never saw it, if he placed it on the table and there's no note,
yeah,
that's when you could take it.
If you think you're not going to get caught, yeah, then you could take it.
All right, the last one for you, Larry, LD, shoes off on a plane. Do you have a problem with somebody on a plane?
I have a big problem with it. Yeah. You know, don't make yourself. It's not your house, all right? You're outside. You're in public. I don't want to see your socks. And God forbid you have a little odor down there. Who needs that, right?
And I don't even want to know if you do have it.
Exactly. It's close quarters. Come on. Take a couple of minutes. Keep your shoes on.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to our show. That was a lot of fun with Jeff Schaffer, man. Oh, boy.
I mean, one of the funniest dudes we know, hands down.
It's amazing. Susie and I met him and his wife at some crazy party that we both got invited to through eventual mutual friends. It was, I'm telling you, just to bring this all full circle with Wilford Brimley and everything, it was out in Malibu. It was after a Thursday night. It was a Friday night party. I had just flown back in from Pittsburgh. We did a Thursday night game in Pittsburgh. And Susie's like, we've been invited to this birthday party out in Malibu. Do you want to go? I'm like, I'm tired, but I'll go. Like, this was, I think it was before we had kids, so we could just go. We could just actually do it.
Malibu's far.
And it wound up being this absurd estate on the water. It was monster big.
You know whose house it was?
I don't remember whose house. I can kind of remember whose it was. I mean, this is 12 some odd years ago. It was 2006, I think. 14 years ago. Anyway, long story short, the party was held in a pool house that looked just like Susie. I turned to Susie. I'm like, was this where they shot Cocoon? Like, that's how big and ornate it was. Speaking of Wilford Brimley.
Wow. I think you went full circle.
The guy whose birthday party it was apparently is a big billionaire or whatever. A lot of money. So there was like a mermaid in the pool. And he was a big opera fan. So the wait staff, when the dinner was served, turned into this entertainment. They started singing opera. And I turned to the guy to my right. And I say, I bet you I'm the only person here who was in Heinz Field last night. Which is a line I said to Susie like just seconds before. That person was Jeff Schaffer, sitting to my right. And the two of us in that event clung to each other like a rock in the ocean.
And that's the first time you met him.
Correct.
Wow.
I bet I'm the only person who was in Heinz Field last night.
And it's just, again, you know, like we got invited to their wedding, and because they weren't married yet. We were just married 3 years before. That's what I turned to him. I bet you I'm the other. As they're singing opera and a mermaid's in the pool, and we're all looking at each other like, what are we doing here? Like, did I really? If I didn't get out of the house that night, I'd literally just landed from Pittsburgh, and Susie's like, we've been invited to this party. You want to go? We don't have to go. We went. Turn to the guy to my right. I bet you I'm the only person who was in Heinz Field in this place last night.
Fantastic.
Nice.
We hit it off.
Hit it off. All right, a little more Tua news real quick. From Mike Garafolo and Ian Rappaport.
What do you got for me?
Tua participated in a voluntary medical recheck facilitated by the NFL Combine with an independent doctor.
There you go.
Selected by NFL team physicians.
Here we go.
Per Tua's reps. Results were, quote, overwhelmingly
there you
positive.
go, buddy. I'm telling you. Here we go. Top three. Top three.
Number
Could you imagine?
one.
Thanks to Greg Cosell, Marc Stein of the New York Times, and Jeff Schaffer. Tomorrow's show, first guest up, Chris Long.
All right.
Multiple pro football, Super Bowl, pro football Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion. And then in advance of Saturday's live comedy stream to help raise funds to battle the coronavirus, the very funny Bill Burr will be on our program tomorrow. And we'll see how else we're rolling. But we will be rolling into Friday. We will see you then.